Well, I'll go ahead and, because we're almost 4 minutes late now, I will go ahead and call this meeting to order. Welcome everyone. So to get us started today, I'm going to ask you to join me in standing for a moment of silence before the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, we will go to roll call.
Commissioner Repart.
Here.
Commissioner Kelly.
Here.
Commissioner Jones.
Here.
Commissioner O'Connor.
Present.
Commissioner Lanier.
Present.
Mayor Bliss.
Yes. All right, next that will take us to our first opportunity for public comment. So let me kind of walk you through the agenda in case you haven't been to one of our meetings before. So we have multiple opportunities for public comment. And the very first one that we start with are items that we're voting on tonight. So if you're here to speak on something that we're actually voting on tonight, and if you open up your agenda, we have a number of items listed. And they're listed under different meetings that we had earlier today. So we had appointments committee meeting, fiscal, community development, and our committee of the whole. So that's the first opportunity, which I'll open up in just a moment. And then we have 3 scheduled public hearings tonight. So if you are here to speak about a plant rehabilitation district, and this is related to a property on Butterworth for Grand River Aseptic Manufacturing, I'm going to ask you to hold your comments until we open up that public hearing a little bit later on. And then if you're here to speak and provide comment on our 3rd Ward Commission candidates, that also is a little bit later on the agenda. And then at the end of our meeting tonight, there will be open comment on anything else that you want to speak to. So I'll go ahead and open up this first opportunity for public comment. We ask you to do a couple things. We ask you to come up here, speak into the microphone. Right next to the microphone is a clipboard. On the clipboard, we ask you to write down your name and the city that you live in, or just name.
Name is fine.
Okay, so just your name. I'll ask you to share your name publicly as well as the city that you live in, and then you'll be given up to 3 minutes to speak. And so there's a little timer right up here. Our city clerk will start that timer, and then we'll ask you to finish up before the time is up, or I'll ask you to finish up when the time's up. And then for this first public comment, we ask you specifically to say the item that you're speaking to. So on the agenda, if you're, let's say, here to talk about committee of the whole, item number 2, I ask you to explicitly say that, just so we know what you're referring to. So I'll open up this first opportunity for public comment. If you're here to speak about something we're gonna vote on, now's an opportunity to come forward.
Good evening, fellow citizens. This is the House of the People. Watchdog Miller reporting. We want to save on 9-8, I think it is. We want to save all veterans buildings here between Monroe and Coit up north, including Bliss, Rankin, the Pavilion, Train Depot, Monuments, and the 3019 Clinic for veterans as originally deeded for veterans. We see, well, the state wants to demolish most of the above. How much credibility does the state have? Well, state law says in the last year they've evicted 25 veterans for no reason at all. From Rankin alone, state law says they get 30 days before they move on an eviction matter. And after that, if they still want to stay, they have to take them to court. So that's the kind of, in terms of, the state has no credibility in terms of goodwill towards the veterans and what would be good for veterans long term. We see 400 plus SROs up there, single rooms for veterans, just by keeping what we have. We have 25,000 municipalities across the nation. Most of them will die to what we have here, and all we're asking you to do is keep what we have. More than 700,000 soldiers fell during the horrific Civil War. Our veterans complex out Monroe was slowly erected to serve the tough luck survivors of the Civil War. Kira Wood says none of those buildings are obsolete. The complex has stood proudly through 7 generations of white leadership here, some 130 years. Now, we did way more share than on our watch, now it's your watch to defend or destroy. What we also like is we better process. Due process would be better served if our city's venerable Historic Preservation Commission professionally vetted all of the historic considerations and implications first. They meet at civilized hours from 5:45 p.m. to 8 p.m. There are plenty of civilized, family-friendly, veteran-friendly time slots which should be going before them and not the Planning Commission. We would like all demolition work or discussion thereof to be stopped until all excavation findings are in and professionally reviewed by our local historic preservation staff. Why has this property not been legally bid in the first place? Why have renowned patriotic faiths such as Catholics, Baptists, and Mormons been excluded? Catholic school, World War II, 43% of the U.S. combat deaths in World War II were sustained by Catholic America. Why couldn't they bid on that property? Why have veterans organizations been crudely excluded from bidding? With 7 established churches already in walking distance of the Vets Home, including a CRC church already, plus the Veterans Home Chapel, which apparently going to knock down, why is it necessary to put City Hall?
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Okay.
Okay.
Union or Confederate?
I know
Blue or gray?
Okay,
Blue
Mr.
or
Miller,
gray, which
your
is
time's up. Others want to be heard. Thank you. All right. Hi, welcome.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good.
Good evening. My name is Eric Foster. I'm with Banks & Company Cannabis Practice Group. I live in Okemos, Michigan, and I'm actually here to speak on the amended ordinance for the medical marijuana opt-in and zoning. Looking at the maps that were presented for this evening, one of the things that in doing some due diligence after the meeting that from the Planning Commission's vantage point was the ability to allow for commercial zones such as Leonard and some other thoroughfares to have opportunity to be zoned in which you would, from a linear vantage point, be able to go in and purchase some of those commercial buildings that are vacant. With the maps as it looks this evening, those sections are pretty much taken out. One of the things that you definitely want to consider, and with some of you all I was able to share some data on the economic value, the tax capture value, potential per license application, as well as some additional options, is that each additional licensee, from purchasing property, hiring staff, spin-off economic activity, can generate an extra $11.1 million per licensee. From a tax revenue capture vantage point, that can be dollars that the city can earmark for specific activities. You can generate up to an extra $87,112 per licensee that could be earmarked for community benefit activities, education, neighborhood parks, and other things. When you take the commercial areas such as that with such a restrictive 1,000-foot linear barrier as to maybe opposed a 250 or 500 barrier, you really reduce opportunity for existing vacant properties that could be developed, properties where now they might be going for 100, 200,000, but could easily go up, which increases the tax capture for the community. You're, in one sense, you're kind of short-circuiting the market. So my communication on this is just to ask for you all as a body just to look at the linear buffer on residential areas, to look at 250 to 500 to allow for those commercial thoroughfares that can benefit from the investment where the neighboring communities have interest to be able to be maximized and create the job opportunities and other value benefits for the community. Thank you, and if you have any questions, I definitely would love to help and offer any support or assistance.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. All right, others who wish to be heard? Oh yes, please put your name down.
I forgot that last.
Thank you. Hi, welcome.
Hi, my name is Jay Fleming. I am a cannabis consultant from Kalamazoo. I'd like to speak on Motion 11.5, adoption of zoning ordinance text amendments to allow marijuana facilities. Over the last month, I've had some of my faith in our democratic process restored. I watched as planning department representatives presented the expected highly restricted first draft of your city's zoning ordinance. And as I have involved myself in your process, my original frustration and disappointment at that first reading slowly evolved to one of surprise and optimism. I've seen members of Smart and Safe GR stand up repeatedly with courage, and I lost my place, give me a moment. Stand up repeatedly with courage and respectfully voice the needs of your city's patients, and heard them give voice, among other advocates, to your constituency's desire for you to enact zoning regulations to ensure safe access to needed medication. Over that month, I've also heard people like Paul Mayhew give voice to the unheard, sharing their concerns that the original ordinance language presented and licensing under the MMFLA in general fails to extend the benefits of this emerging market to his community. I've heard and have myself been given the space to voice concerns of other small business owners. Many of us have worked hard to incubate this burgeoning industry in our state, only to watch legislators and administrative authorities hand the market over to heavily moneyed, oftentimes out-of-state companies. We kept our businesses very small, in line with the dictates of the state, only to have the state turn around and require the type of money only found in larger business models. Of the prospective entrepreneurs I've spoken to in your city, most want small businesses. They aren't interested in or prepared for raising $750,000 capital, let alone the $2 million or more that are going to be required when you factor in the costs of real estate in a limited zoning situation. With these other concerns pressing on them, I was pleasantly surprised to watch your planning department take this feedback and oftentimes criticism and solicit more from us. They have been true professionals by continuing to engage and resisting the urge to become defensive. Their efforts at incorporating the community's concerns and using all the tools presented has resulted in what I felt was truly a creative and equitable response to the issue at hand. They have proven themselves true servants of the public, and I implore you, the Commission, to accept their original advisement, or this secondary advisement, of the hybrid ordinance that they proposed to you all this last week for zoning marijuana facilities. I feel like it does a better job of addressing some of these concerns by underserved people of your population, by honoring the pioneers of this industry who have put their lives and their freedom on the line for this, and I ask you to reassess what you're doing and relook at the hybrid ordinance, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jay. All right, others who wish to be heard?
Greetings, my name is Ryan Jeanette. I'm from Ward 1, District 1 of Walker. It's been a while. I'm coming to speak on Section 11, Ordinance 5. I would like to echo the sentiment by the previous speaker, wanting to keep this in the small businesses and not into large businesses. I also want to speak on somebody that has experience with medicinal marijuana. My mom was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer, and when it came to actually holding food down or being able to live comfortably, her doctors wisely prescribed THC pills. She got, the effect was immediate. I saw somebody that had been fighting even to drink or eat, just being vibrant again. I know for a fact that if my mom had survived, we would probably be living over here in Grand Rapids. And if she had survived, she would probably still need the medication to this day. And from what I hear from patients that are in the area, the closest place that they tell me that they are able to get their medication is Detroit, or in the Detroit area, which is a 3-hour drive one way. If my mom was still alive, I would make that trip every day if she was still alive, just for her. We need these facilities in the city. The amount of people with the increasing number of ailments that can be treated with medical marijuana increasing yearly. We have a group of people that are ever increasing that need this type of medication, and we need to be able to facilitate that and get that medication, even if they don't have any transportation. I fully support this ordinance. I don't support the I don't know if it's a one-time fee of $5,000 or $10,000 or annual fee of $10,000. That's honestly just an extra tax that you're just throwing on top of it, but that can be hashed out in the courts later. I do support that this ordinance needs to pass, and these people do need their medication. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, others who wish to be heard?
Hello again and good evening. My name is Matt Hoffman, and I'm a chairman in the National Cannabis Industry Association, and I'm also a small business owner here in Grand Rapids. And so I had came here tonight, and we had held meetings all day with the intention of discussing the honestly fantastic hybrid ordinance that, as Mr. Fleming pointed out, was a beautiful demonstration of democracy in action. Coming here and finding out that that is not the case is, needless to say, disappointing, not only for me, but for the people that I serve in my business, which are minorities and people that want to work in the cannabis industry. By limiting the number of businesses that we have access to, not only limits the amount of revenue that the city can generate, but also limits the amount of employees that can work in the industry, which, to be honest, as marijuana becomes more and more of a forefront issue, the interest in working in the industry is tremendous. And so I would like to just say that I'm disappointed, and as part of the leadership of Safe and Secure GR, I can assure you that we'll be taking issue with this as well. So thank you for your time, and I've already signed in.
Thank you. All right, others who wish to be heard?
Good evening. So my name is Michelle Stitt. I live in Grandville, Michigan. I am here speaking about, Article 11, Item 5, the medical marijuana ordinance. Basically, here representing not just myself, but Network 180, the Kent County Prevention Coalition, just to request that special consideration be given to the youth that are here in the county. We as adults serve as the gatekeepers, not just stakeholders that kind of jockey for position and such, but gatekeepers. We are the ones who have the capacity to control kind of what we allow into our community, what we don't. And so my hope is that as you're looking critically at the ordinance, that you pay special attention to the verbiage that's included when it comes to protecting the young people in the county. We have seen, with the work that I do with the Kent County Prevention Coalition, seen time after time that when we become more lax with the laws and such when it comes to things like marijuana and such, that the perception of harm on the part of youth goes down, and there's a direct correlation there. And so the ease of access, all of that, we just need to make sure that we've got the necessary protections in place to protect the kids that we're tasked to protect. So I've already signed in. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle.
Yep.
All right, others wish to be heard?
Hi, good evening. My name is Sharon Briggs, and I too am with the Kent County Prevention Coalition, and I too want to address the number 11 ordinances to be adopted, number 5, with marijuana facilities. I want to point out that Grand Rapids was first known as Furniture City. Now we're known as Beer City. And tonight I heard on Channel 8, I believe it was, that we are soon to be the marijuana destination of West Michigan. I'm not sure that we really want to do that. The city has done so many wonderful things with Grand Rapids, with development, with the riverfront, with bikes, the urban center. I think that's it. I totally understand some people needing to have medical marijuana to help, but when you're moving forward, I really do worry about the youth. When you increase access to a substance, that also increases youth use as well. In my own profession, I teach minors in possession. I have gone from mostly alcohol to mostly marijuana use with teens. I have also worked with tobacco a lot in our city. I just went out and did tobacco compliance checks in Grand Rapids, and out of 11 checks, we had 5 retail businesses that sold. So if that's any indication of the access that our youth might have because of a number of dispensaries, I think that's something to really take into consideration. I know you've worked very hard on this plan and the ordinance, and I appreciate that hard work, but sometimes policy comes before science, and I think that looking at the science and waiting a little bit might be to our advantage.
Thank you.
That's all.
Thank you, Sharon. All right, others who wish to be heard?
Thought that gentleman was trying to reclaim my time. Had to lighten up a little bit. Section 11, item number 5, the medical marijuana. Good evening to the mayor and to the commissioners. My name is Denise Herbert, Program Director of Prevention Services at Network 180, one of the largest providers of services here in the county. I'm a parent, grandparent, and youth advocate. Commissioners, I know that you are the same. So I'm saying that, you know what, because of that common thread, we all can agree that we want to keep our kids safe. So on behalf of the Kent County Prevention Coalition and Network 180, I want to thank you for your lengthy discussion this morning regarding the medical marijuana ordinance. But based on your vote this morning, I strongly urge the Commission to amend today's ordinance for the following reasons. The impact to the health, wellness, and overall safety of our children. Currently, much emphasis is placed on the economics with little regards to our community children. Our research with the Kent County Prevention Coalition shows that youth marijuana use and access increases anytime our marijuana laws are changed or relaxed, and that includes medical marijuana. Our research also shows that youth perception of harm from marijuana use decreases with such law changes or when it's relaxed, including medical marijuana. The Kent County Prevention Coalition believes that Grand Rapids medical marijuana ordinance combined with the Michigan 2018 ballot will cause the youth marijuana to increase. So marijuana use in young people have negative impact on brain development and also increases negative health outcomes in our community. And those would include higher rates of possession, arrests, citations, academic failure, and addiction. So our concerns, as the others stated, is easy access, 30-day use, perception of harm, and others. So data from the Michigan Profile for Healthy Youth indicates that in Kent County, 1 in 10 Kent County youth use marijuana within the 30 days. 1 in 4 indicate using marijuana before age 14. So our perception of harm has steadily declined since 2012, with perception of harm being 60% of the youth believing that it's harmful. 2014, 50% saying it's harmful. 2016, 40%. So we're awaiting 2018. So although the Medical Marijuana Act allows use by our minors with specific guidelines for those under 18, let's create some type of firewall of protection for our youth by including that same LARA emergency rule information or regulation language in this same ordinance. Our mission is to focus on the health and wellness of our community, especially our youth. So as mentioned this morning, let's do the right thing. We don't want our youth, our children, to take a backseat to big businesses in our community. So based on this morning's vote, we're asking as a Kent County Prevention Coalition for the Commission to include this amendment along with the other 7 that you agreed on this morning to speak to our children.
Time is up. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, others who wish to be heard? Hello, welcome.
My name is Art Kroon. I'm a small business owner downtown Grand Rapids. I'm also a member of Creston Neighborhood Association. I'd like to speak to the text amendment addressing the medical marijuana facilities. We've worked long and hard in the 2nd Ward, Creston Neighborhood Association especially, to rehab Plainfield corridor. And we're concerned that a dispensary is being considered for that area. I'd like to offer that White and White Pharmacy downtown at Sheldon and Fulton has been, that building has been available, or it's existed for decades. It has adequate parking. Perhaps that should be considered as a central location for a medical marijuana facility. The other issues that I'd like to address are article in the press, which clearly states it gives us good reason to believe that we have a high rate of addiction to marijuana use, 9%, and we have a high rate of addiction for teenage use, 14%. If we're going to approve the marijuana, medical marijuana, then I think that we need to put a levy on the sale of the product that's sufficient to pay for all of the social ills that are going to be caused. We already know what the social ills with alcohol is. We've got rehab centers, we've got homeless shelters, we've got abuse centers, and there's no reason to believe that it's not going to be duplicated with addiction to marijuana. The other issue is what's the next drug after marijuana? And so I think that the City Commission is doing an admirable job of considering the medical marijuana matter. I would like on the facility location that you consider keeping it in a central area such as downtown Grand Rapids where there's adequate parking and it can be the patronage can be supervised and monitored. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Art. All right, others who wish to be heard? Hi, welcome.
Hi, thank you. My name is John Campbell. I'm a resident of Walker, and I'd be seeking a license within the city if you adopt a MMFLA ordinance. I was here this morning at the Committee of the Whole, and excuse me, commend the City Commission on a great discussion and what I think is a much better plan than many of the other proposals. I'd still ask you to potentially revisit the size of the residential buffer that was decided on, 1,000 feet. That 1,000-foot residential buffer knocks out even some of the properties that would have qualified under what everybody agrees is a very restrictive original plan from the city staff. So I ask you maybe to consider a 500-foot residential buffer rather than the 1,000-foot. Another common point that was raised both in many of the meetings has been access for the little guy in this. As the little guy, I would say that there are still a lot of impediments that aren't really necessary in the ordinance. For example, the application, having obtained pre-qualification status from Laura before you can even apply here in the city. There's no connection between those two. They run on different tracks. There's no prerequisite that you be pre-approved by Laura before you can be approved in the city. And Laura has been months and months and months behind their planned, mileposts. So, I'd ask that you remove that. It's also an additional, $6,000 application fee then to the state, and you're saying that people have to go out on that limb before they even know whether they have a facility use approved in the city. Additionally, the VITA will be a barrier. I understand the purpose behind it, and I think it's admirable, but I think it will be counterproductive and be an additional barrier to the little guy getting into it. The $5,000 licensing fee, if it were a licensing fee, I think that would be great, but I think it's also going to be an application fee, which means that anybody who wants to get into the game also has to pony that up. Something styled like a micro business that was in that hybrid ordinance would then have to pony up $15,000 if they were going to operate a co-located, even a small operation there. So many cities have charged that $5,000 fee upon licensing or half up front or something like that. Some things to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jen. All right, others wish to be heard?
Good afternoon. My name is Tommy Watson. I'm a resident of Ada, and I'm also a substance abuse counselor and a former police officer. So my thing is that this ordinance is a very slippery slope, period. Would this be another way of gutting our minority population, bringing forth more Jim Crow. Because the whole idea of making marijuana legal is because we don't, it's another avenue to bring taxes. But are we that far down the road that we got to legalize things that are really actually legal? We went through this with Prohibition. Our American mafia was created because of Prohibition. We decriminalized alcohol, then we decriminalized it, but then the damage was started. And now from the American mafia, you have the cartels, you have this whole gamut that started. And then I deal with people that use marijuana as a gateway drug. Now, I've had over 19 major surgeries, including cancer. And pain, I know pain. But I refuse because I know everything. Our opioid crisis right now is not just based on the fact is that it's kids going out there doing it. It's a reason. So I can't say I'm for it or against it, but I know it's a very, very slippery slope. And I know society now is asking you all to make moral judgments when we should be making them ourselves. And I just want us to just slow it down because I've seen it. I was a police officer in Little Rock, Arkansas, and in the 90s, they had a thing called banging in the rock. I mean, it went wild. And I'm from here, but I lived there for over 20-some years. And it could be great for the tax base, but it could be very harmful for society. So I just don't want to see us gutting our minority population again, introducing something that we think that's right to raise taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tommy. All right, others wish to be heard?
Hello, my name is Martha Cooper and from Grand Rapids. I'd like to return the topic to an ordinance on medical marijuana. I've been listening to folks come up, and I understand people are very afraid of drugs, and they're not really, it's kind of like it gets all about all drugs. So I'd like to return to marijuana as a medical and where these are going to be located and what communities and what people are going to be able to benefit from having those in their neighborhoods. As the gentleman earlier came up, one of the first speakers, and said something about extra money, and that money is going to be in the neighborhood. I'm going to speak to marijuana has been criminalized, and even though now not only has it been available for cancer patients and people who have suffered things they didn't deserve, but even for children. And now I'm hearing people get up and be so afraid for the children, but the children have been doing what they want to do, and they will. We've got a beer city, and yet there's recovery, but there's no real recovery when it's something where you need long-term. I would suggest that the people that are worried about the children's drugs worry about the ones that will kill them, not the ones that are being prescribed for people. I would like to see criminalization stop. I saw women get up here and talked about all they do, and they look so good doing it, but they get public money doing it. Because when my child needed mental health care for ADHD, the only thing we could access was some treatment program for getting caught smoking a joint behind the school. That's not the help he needed. But I had to go, and Andy had to go, and they all got taxpayer money. And now you all, I'm going to point out, I only got a minute, but I think about these cities' fees and how you go about determining how much you call what for a fee. And I remember at some point you were going to do something with housing in the middle of this crisis that would, in low-income neighborhoods especially, have no right to comment on what was being developed there, and you wouldn't even take a fee from these developers who would stand to profit. These developers don't live there in that community. And now I'm sitting here watching you talk about jobs coming into communities. And instead now, you want to make sure that only the rich people can afford to invest in these businesses because they got to give you a $15,000 fee. I'm not even keeping track whether it's $5,000 or whether it's $15,000. You get my point? It's like you have this like it's a big deal. Alcohol is a big deal. Look what happened to our insurance rates because of alcohol. And you think that happened because of pot? Why is everyone so afraid? It is coming. 10 years.
Thank you, Martha. Your time is up. Thanks. All right, others who wish to be heard?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Aaron Stiglitz. I'm a resident of Kalamazoo, Michigan. I am an infantry veteran from the United States Marine Corps. I also represent National Cannabis Security Services. We're a national security brand with major efforts going on in Michigan. I want to address, it seems like there's been a lot of issues regarding child safety. I'd encourage the board to look past the confines of their own city and look at the state and look at the strict security measurements that have been put in place around these facilities that will be opening up. With RFID tracking and the metric system, our concern doesn't lie with the facilities, but with the responsible usage of these medical veterans. There's no denying that there are many medicinal purposes and benefits to this plant, so I just encourage the board to look at those facts. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. All right, others wish to be heard?
Good evening, Marvin Yono, local businessman here in Grand Rapids for over 20 years. No script here, I just want to speak about your proposed ordinance. It's no is good or bad for us. As adults, we can make our own decisions, and over half the country has opted into some form of marijuana or medical marijuana. I can tell you that this draft doesn't really help. You're going to have a lot of people to serve, especially after November once it goes recreational. You're going to have people waiting in 1 or 2 dispensaries if we're lucky. Waiting long periods of time. Dispensaries are typically safe from what I've seen all over the country. They're the safest zones. They have security outdoors, indoors. Nobody that smokes weed is bothering anybody. They're coming in to get their medicine and they're on their way. Again, I don't have a script, and we're not here to debate whether or not you guys are going to get a great tax benefit. Consumers will get the convenience of driving 5 minutes instead of 30 minutes and waiting 2 hours to get their medicine. We have to shrink down the amount of lineal feet that you need from a home. That's probably first and foremost. And you don't need 2,000 feet from buffer from one facility to another. If anything, it's better that they're all in the same zone. You'll have the money and from a tax perspective to help us police those areas. Again, they're typically safe. We want police presence down those streets, but we also want our patients to come in. Not just patients, there will be recreational use. Again, nobody judged anybody for picking up a drink at the age of 21. Marijuana has zero addictive ingredients in it. A cigarette is worse than a joint, and also better than a bottle of liquor. So I beg you and I urge you to take a look at what you're proposing and let us have the availability for people, for consumers, whether it be for medicinal use, and they're coming there in a wheelchair, or if it's for recreational use. Again, to each their own. We're not here to judge. We're here to make sure business gets handled. And as far as all the fees and everything, I'm a businessman. I think you guys are on par with the state of Michigan. And we are actually one of the best economies for marijuana in the country based on what we have so far. We've helped a lot of families grow. We've helped a lot of people with medicine. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, others wish to be heard?
Good evening, Jamie Cooper, Grand Haven. And first of all, I asked everybody in the room that supports medical marijuana to please stand up. I saw this get done last time, and it was very effective, and I thought it was brilliant. First of all, I want to thank each and every one of you. Thank you for approaching this issue. There are some municipalities that have not done that. And thank you, because I know it's a hard topic, but it's something that is being discussed by the community. I keep hearing about the youth, and I can't help but be a little bit offended by it, because my son is 5 years old. He got his first certification a week and a half ago for autism, and he's about to get his second certification. So when people stand up here and tell me about the youth, like, it goes against everything that I have taught myself and have learned about how this can help my child. So I want that because autism is now a qualifying condition, and there are 50,000 people in the state that have autism and that could be helped by this. So in my opinion, the youth could be helped. They're getting the product from the black market. They're not getting it from the dispensaries. And the gateway drug. I lost my sister to alcoholism, and I almost lost my mom twice in the last year to pharmaceutical drugs. That's the true gateway. It wasn't marijuana. My mom didn't use marijuana. My sister didn't use marijuana, but they sure used alcohol and pharmaceuticals, which almost ended their life. And the youth, again, if we are truly concerned about the youth, there's a lot of tax revenue that's going to come from this. How about we use some of that tax revenue to create a youth prevention program? Easy solution. I mean, like, our youth need to be educated. Their parents need to be educated about social awareness and how they need to be housing their product when they are using it and keeping it away from their children. The 2,000 feet separation rule, that's a little bit extreme. I don't know if there's any other communities that are using that. I think going back to a 1,000-foot rule is a little bit more justifying. And then 1,000 feet from a church, thank you. Like, I think that, I really think that that needs to be dropped. The residential requirement, again, I think that needs to be dropped. And I think we need to be thinking about medical. I understand that recreational is knocking at our back door, but we need to, like, right now, like, we need to focus on what lies in front of us, and then we can adapt that program to recreational. It's easily done. So many other states do that, and I urge you to do that. We are not reinventing the wheel. And again, I want to urge the fact that ancillary services, the industries that service our industry, will benefit from this a lot. So the overall everything is going to benefit from this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jamie. All right, others wish to be heard?
Thank you. My name is David Sostek. I'm a resident of Kentwood and own property in Grand Rapids. When I came here, I had different comments based on what happened this morning. My primary comment was going to be removing the 250-foot setback because there are commercial corridors that are clearly commercial, but abut a residential district. So Fulton and Plainfield, for example, that corner just begins the Plainfield corridor, but 100 feet from the street is a residential zoned area for most of the width. So I'm really pleased to see that the city council has opted to change how it computes the distances for residential zones. I think it makes a lot more sense. I also believe that it's too large of a distance. You're talking 1,000 feet, that's 2/10 of a mile. Those corridors don't last for, infinite miles. I think it would be a lot more reasonable to keep it at 250 or go to 100 as opposed to 1,000. I absolutely agree that the fee is necessary. It's what Grand Rapids is proposing is on par with every other municipality I've looked at, and the city needs the money. This is a lot of administration to process these applications. I would add a severability clause. With uncertain law, you just never know what's going to change. There isn't one in this ordinance. So I think it would be wise to add one. They're pretty standard. The city of Kalamazoo has a pretty standard one. But that way, if the law changes or this or that, your whole ordinance isn't dead. It's just you might have to tweak a provision. My fear of having too large of a distance for a residential zone setback, even under the new computation, is that all of this will be wasted time because there won't be enough properties to qualify. In the last 2 days, I've contacted 3 different landlords with commercial properties for sale or lease in what I'm guessing are going to be permitted zones. None of the 3 landlords would permit a marijuana use. So yes, it could be available for the parcel, but we're going to get some personal kickback on that. To address a couple prior comments, this isn't a sliding slope. The first state to legalize medical marijuana was California in '96. It's 22 years ago. Heroin hasn't been proposed. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. All right, others wish to be heard?
Good evening, I'm William Haas, Head of Agriculture for Redbud Roots out of Buchanan, Michigan. I'm the guy that went into Buchanan over there and started the ordinances. I worked hand in hand with Buchanan every day. We finished our first facility at 10,000 square foot in June 8th of this year. It is a complete medical facility. We're not talking recreational here, that's not here yet. And even when it does come, if it does come, it's going to be a while for the state to get it together. It's been almost 2 years for this. I highly recommend this. The benefits that Buchanan is receiving, we've donated to the school systems, the athletics, all the scraps that we took out of the buildings, we donated to the athletic departments. We're working hand in hand to try to work with some housing development along with this, because you know the city needs this. I'm from Buchanan, I was born there, lived in Michigan my whole life. The benefits from this go way beyond the taxes. It goes way beyond the patients, even though they're foremost. And you know, all the facts are already there. We should be doing this. We should be providing this medicine to the people, especially in cities like this. You guys have a beautiful city, one of the most beautiful cities in the whole state. And you have a ton of people here that need this meds. And with companies like ours and a few others around the state providing these high-class medicines instead of stuff coming out of people's basements, it's a no-brainer, guys. It's a no-brainer. And with that, that's all I have. If you guys would like to come see the facility, you guys are all welcome to come down to Buchanan and tour and see what it's all about.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you. All right, others wish to be heard?
My name is Pat Isaac. I live in Grand Rapids, and I'm not against the medical marijuana. I'm not against some of these processes, but I am questioning. I want to know how many more police officers you are going to put on our streets to protect us.
Well, yeah, ma'am, can you speak a little? It's hard for folks in the
Pull the
back
microphone
to
down
just
your
pull the microphone a little bit. Yeah.
Oh. I would like to know just how many more police officers. We are already understaffed for what we have, the size of the city, and the problems we're having. I want to know how many, and I would suggest 300 more police officers on our streets. I'm tired of them not being able to take care of themselves, let alone take care of us. The crime in our neighborhoods is ridiculous. Our safety on our streets are ridiculous. And these bicycles, these people on bicycles, I've been almost run over 3 times already just walking down our street. I want this stopped. And I'm afraid if these people are on marijuana or on any drug, our street's going to be safe. We need police officers to take care of this. We need to have their access to the things they need to take care of these problems. And I'm afraid when more and more of these drugs, I agree, it's going to be a slippery slope, and it should be monitored closely. I'm not denying the medication, but I am wanting strict, very strict regulations on them. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, others who wish to be heard?
Good evening, my name is Hillary Delaney. I live in Lansing, Michigan, and I am here to speak on the marijuana issue at hand today, and also about the zoning recommendations that were made earlier today. I am a Michigan resident, and I've been in the industry since '09 on an ancillary capacity. I moved to Oregon approximately 4 years ago to start a cannabis business because Michigan's laws had not caught up to the rest of the West Coast. I am a recreational license holder in Oregon, and I am here back in my home state finally to invest in where I'm from. I plan to invest about 10 times what we invested in Oregon. And I want to speak a little bit, there's two things I'd like to speak on. Number one of the concerns spoke just recently by the woman before me, what a regulated market looks like. In Michigan, we've had a very unique market for the last 10 years, very unregulated. I work in the market that we are looking to adopt. Michigan adopted 97% roughly of Oregon law. The system does not look like what we've, as citizens, seen in this state, where someone can take out a lease and open up a shop the next day. It doesn't work that way in a regulated system. We have an extremely, extremely regulated, safe system. One of our facilities is only 1,500 square feet. And we have a camera every 80 square feet. We have a camera on the system that records for 90 days, and then a camera on that camera that goes to the state. Everyone that enters our facility is logged. They are under complete scrutiny under our camera system, and they have to follow very specific procedures. What we have now is unregulated. What we are going for is a safer system, and I want people to understand that it doesn't look like what it looks like now. It's respectable, and it's safe, and it's tested to the utmost standards. The other thing that I wanted to talk about most importantly is the new zoning recommendations that were made this morning. I had a chance to take a look at the new map, and it's extremely restrictive. And one of the things, before I'm cut off, which is so important, the beginning we talked about big cannabis coming in and taking over. And with such a restrictive map, that's exactly what will happen, because those locations will only be affordable to the people that are coming in with tens of millions of dollars. I am investing my life savings, my retirement, and so are my partners. And we need the ability to have a more wider selection of locations in order to achieve our goals.
Thank you, Ms. Delaney. All right, others who wish to be heard?
Hi, my name is Mike Elias. I'm the CEO of Michigan Pure Med, vertically integrated seed-to-sale operation bent on developing a pharmaceutical-grade product to the Michigan market. We've been in it for quite some time.
Mike, can you remind us where you're from?
Sorry, I apologize. I'm from Toronto, Canada. I grew up in Southeast Michigan, went to Michigan State, went to Wayne State School of Medicine. I'm a Michiganer, and looking forward to coming back. My background is in healthcare. I led a 450-bed quaternary facility in Toronto, Canada, North York General Hospital. It's kind of weird that I'm in the space. It's a long story, another day. But I'm here, and I see the value of the work that we're doing here. We bring sophistication class, outside industry experience in the space. We have experience winning licenses in Arizona, Ohio, Columbia, and we're in Michigan now. And we favor this proposal. But I think as a good compromise, the fact that you're questioning whether or not to allow the use in the CC district seems to be a decent compromise. You still get to control who goes in, who doesn't. So we favor that, and we definitely commend you on the voluntary equitable development agreement. We love to give back to the cities. We're trying to change the narrative, and I think what we do, outside of making money, we are very interested in changing the dialogue and the profile of a cannabis operator in the space. So just want to introduce myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. All right, others who wish to be heard?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Helen Lehman. I live in Canaan Township, and I work for New Development Corporation, which is an affordable housing provider on the north end of Grand Rapids. And you all got a note from our board of directors, a letter from our board. I have to tell you, I was at the committee of the whole meeting this morning, and Lord knows over the years I've been to a lot of those. This one was probably the most productive, thoughtful discussions that I've ever heard from a commission. I think you came to a smart compromise. I have to say, I was a little worried when you started out this morning, Commissioner O'Connor, but I thought it was a very thoughtful compromise. My brother, one of my heroes, my brother teaches high school at a tech center in Cadillac. And he also sits as an elected official. He sits on a township board. And he said to me, he was on the front page of the paper in our local, my hometown paper. And he was, he got into an argument with somebody who was in a dispensary industry. And they'd come to the township board and wanted them to be open. They wanted them to opt in. And my brother just said, we don't have the capacity for that here in Claim Lake Township. We just don't have it. And he also said that as a high school teacher, he has kids who have medical marijuana licenses who come to school so high that they can't use the equipment that he uses to teach. Now, I know that's not what medical marijuana is supposed to be about, but I think that we have to be, I heard the discussions this morning and from others about protecting our youth. Yes, let's find a way to do that. I don't think legitimate operators want the kids to have access to this either. So stick to your guns. I have a friend in the planning department in the city of Lansing, and he said to me, encourage your commission to stick to their $5,000 fee at a very minimum. He said, what did he say? This is the biggest time sucker I've ever experienced. And he said it is costing them a whole lot more than the $5,000 application fee. And I don't know, frankly, if it's application or I think it was listed as being for administration and enforcement. But an ordinance without the money to enforce is folly. We've seen that in any number of things that we've done together over the years. So please stick to your guns on that. And as far as the 1,000 feet piece that you put in for residential zones, I say thanks for protecting your investment and our investment as a nonprofit organization in our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Helen. All right, others who wish to be heard?
How you guys doing this evening? My name is Jonah Rezanowski, local business owner, business development director for a cannabis company out of Kalamazoo. I work with veterans. I'm a disabled veteran myself who have PTSD, severe alcoholism, and I've treated them all with cannabis. With the VA finally going to give approval and the 11 new qualifying conditions that were added about 3 weeks ago, we're going to have a huge influx of patient applications and therefore patients coming into the area. And with the restrictive zoning ordinance amendments that were made, I just feel like we're not going to be able to provide the patients of the area and the surrounding areas efficiently. Last meeting I had a renewed faith in the democratic process. Will the voters, some vast majority of the people that got up and spoke for the hybrid amendment. And quite frankly, I'm appalled that anything else is being considered with the vast numbers of people that spoke against it, or for it, excuse me. Anything else to be considered is really appalling. The 2,000-foot buffer is, I haven't heard of that anywhere else in any municipality throughout the state. Really like you all to rethink that. Thank you much.
Thank you. All right, others wish to be heard?
Hello, my name is Jill Rothwell. I'm a resident of Grand Rapids. I'm a small business owner, I'm a wine broker, and I'm also a real estate agent. The reason why I'm here speaking is because I have family members, close family members, who have been addicted to opioids. And that's why I think that medical marijuana is a very important issue. And I also believe that the residential restriction is too harsh. I think it should be reduced. So I am in favor of medical marijuana dispensaries, and I just wanted to let you know. And the other thing that I have heard a lot of people say that it's restrictive for small business owners, but I look at these licenses as if you were to own a bar. And it's restrictive. Not everybody gets to own a bar or have a license for a bar. So I guess I see them as being somewhat the same. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. All right, any final comments? And then I'm going to close this opportunity for public comment and move on to our agenda. Yep, come on up.
Hi, good evening. My name is Diana Standova, and I am actually a resident from a neighboring town, Holland. I am currently I am operating a medical marijuana recommendation clinic in Holland Charter Township. which is operating and has been located there for over 7 years, for about 5 years, 5 to 6 years. I have seen a dramatic increase in the patients, especially here locally. Our radius for recommendations for our patients is close to about 50 to 65 mile radius. We do have patients that travel pretty far for recommendation with our doctor, who's been there for about 4 to 5 years. He's an amazing doctor, and he sees and understands, the opiates addiction and other high use of medical, the medical raw materials in our prescription drugs that affect our patients, because all they're doing is just putting a Band-Aid over the actual pain or affliction that's within the patient. My point here is that I'm very excited and very hopeful that this change is going to be a positive one for all these patients. And I do understand the rules and regulations you guys are putting into place, because it's so important to educate and to have a good understanding of what you guys are going to get yourself into, because it's going to blow up very soon. My only concern is what a lot of these patients have here is education, and that's really something that we can all work together to help our younger generation. As a parent and as a mom, I educate my I would say students, but they are also my children, about use of medical marijuana and why it's here. As owning a clinic, I make sure that my kids are there and understand what its use is for. And also, as working in the pharmaceutical industry, I do understand the raw materials that are put into prescription drugs and how they can affect us long term. And so I think it's really important that we have an understanding of what our patients are taking when they use medical marijuana. So yes, licensed facilities are a major plus, because then patients or caregivers like myself feel confident that our patients are taking the medicine that they need and have a good understanding of what they're putting into their body. So again, thank you for your time. I appreciate you hosting this and, continuing to have an amendment or something written. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you, Diana.
Hi, I'm Pat DeWinter. I brought up last week that I was really hoping you would keep it local. On the news tonight, which you guys didn't see, it was about big money, big weed coming into Michigan. So I really want to stress that I do hope that you consider applications that are from Michigan and people from Michigan. My dad's 82, and he's on board with this. He owns a nursery already that supplies Home Depot and Lowe's. We grow 3 breast cancer drugs. We're a natural fit for this. But you have to have $300,000 available just to get a license. So on that $5,000, I don't have a problem paying that to you guys. But Lara, 4 licenses have been approved. There's like 435 people in line right now behind them. This is going to take forever. So I agree with what John said about that. I had talked with Paul Mayhew. We want to be in an area that's accessible to minorities, and it's so restricted, there's no place. Everybody doesn't want to be on Plainfield. I sure don't. So I really hope you're thinking about that. And also, when you look at licenses, I hope you consider women and minorities.
Thank you. Thank you, Pat. All right, Commissioner, I'll let you be the final one, and then I'm going to close this comment period.
Yes, I am Kent County, and thank you, Mayor. I'm Kent County Commissioner Robert S. Womack, and I have a secret for half the room that doesn't know. Marijuana is already here. It's just unregulated, and when you look at, with me being African American, Billie Holiday had a song called Strange Fruit, and that was her expression of people being lynched. And sometimes when I hear talk in the community, it's like we went from being strange fruit hanging from a tree to now it's the low-hanging fruit. It's like whenever there's a discussion, it's always, well, if this happens, the African American community or the youth, they're going to do this and they're going to do that. And it's when we sometimes look at schools and we see them underperforming, but we understand Grand Rapids Public Schools are getting $7,500 a child, Grosse Pointe was getting $15,000, then it's more contributed to the talent of the teachers that you can attract and maintain in these school systems. Or you would think, well, kids in Grosse Pointe and East Grand Rapids never smoke marijuana. I had a chance to go to a plethora of schools, and I was kind of surprised when my mom would drop me off, or when I was in a foster home and they dropped me off in this new school, and it's like, look, this is the rich school, and I saw more drugs than I ever saw in the public schools. Drugs you can't even announce. And in speaking of drugs we can't announce, when we're talking about opiates, New York has just changed that if a doctor gives you opiates, you automatically can transfer that into medical marijuana. So there is scientific proof. That's what's on the board tonight with our city commission is the medical marijuana does have some proven benefits. I think this commission, I was here this morning and I just see how painstakingly they have moved to try to include all neighborhoods. They want some type of neighborhood agreements where there's some type of money going back into these communities. The state of Michigan has went ahead and said you need 43,000 here, you need 6,000 here. And we let our state legislation get away with a lot of things that's knocking people out the box. But I just want to remind people we are talking about medical marijuana. That's what's on the table tonight. And I am somebody, even though I was against medical marijuana or any marijuana, I believe in democracy. The people have spoke that medical marijuana is something that they want, and it is the job of this commission, the state, to help regulate it and put the policies forth to bring forth what the people have asked for. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. All right. Oh, please no clapping. I'm going to be very strict with the rules. I want everyone to be respected in this space, regardless of whether they agree with one opinion or the other. All right. So with that, I'm going to close that opportunity for public comment, and that's going to take us to approval of our minutes, and these are the minutes from our July 10th City Commission meeting. Can I get a motion? All right, Commissioners, any comments, additions, changes? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it carries. Next, that will take us to our petitions and communications, and we have a number of those tonight.
The first one is a communication received from Watchdog Miller entitled Operation Bullpop Alert.
That is received and filed. Mr. Miller, please don't yell from the back of the room.
Communication received from Michael A. Booker expressing support for Reverend Nathaniel Moody as the 3rd Ward City Commissioner.
That is received and filed.
Communication from Mayor Bliss regarding the resignation from the Smart Zone Local Development Finance Authority.
That is referred to Committee on Appointments.
Communication from Tim Kelly regarding their resignation from the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board.
That is referred to Committee on Appointments.
Communication, 7 of them received, including letters of support for Nathaniel Moody for 3rd Ward Commissioner.
That is received and filed.
And 3 communications received regarding the proposed medical marijuana ordinance.
And that is also received and filed. All right, next that will take us to reports of city officers.
We have the Comptroller's report for the period of June 29, 2018 through July 17, 2018 in the amount of $23,622,314.57.
That is received and filed.
And the Treasurer's report for the period of June 27, 2018 through July 13, 2018.
And that is also received and filed. All right, next that will take us to our consent agenda. Just making sure I still have a quorum. Okay. So, consent agenda. Commissioners, can I get a motion for the consent agenda?
Hello.
Support. All right. Any questions, comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it carries. All right, that'll take us to items off consent, and I will need our colleagues back around the table in order to talk about our items off consent, because those were split votes this morning. Daniel, do you want to check and see if they will come back? All right, why don't you read the first one?
The first one is a resolution providing for publication and setting a date for consideration of a proposed ordinance amendment to the recreational fire ordinance.
All right, can I get a motion?
So moved. Support.
All right, Commissioner O'Connor, you want to tell us about this?
Yeah, absolutely. This is just an extension of the recreational fire pit ordinance, which we put in place just shy of 2 years ago. This is just extending it an additional 6 months to allow the data to continue to be captured through the close of this season, and then at that point, this fall or this winter, we'll take it up and talk about whether or not we want to continue on or make modifications moving forward.
All right, thank you. And it's off consent because we had a split vote this morning. Commissioners, any comments or questions? Commissioner Kelly?
Yes, I just wanted to make a short comment. I voted no. It's kind of a protest vote. I feel like I heard the majority of my constituents in the 2nd Ward shared concerns with me about recreational fires. I'd love to sit around a fire myself, but I also understand that there are issues around asthma, and I'd received information from our asthma doctors who treat them, and there's an asthma organization, and as well as just concerns about air quality. So that was the reason for my no vote.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. All right, any other questions, comments? All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
It carries. All right, next that will take us to our second resolution tonight.
A resolution awarding a contract with Triangle Associates Incorporated for pre-treatment system at the Lake Michigan filtration plant.
So moved. Support.
All right, Commissioner O'Connor, you made this motion. You want to tell us about this?
Yeah, so this is the awarding of a bid for some work that's going to be done at our water treatment facility out along Lake Michigan. And Triangle and Associates was the low bidder on this contract and also used the minority local business participation. And we're just awarding it to them as having the lowest bid.
All right, thank you. And it's also off consent because of a split vote this morning. Commissioners, any questions, comments? All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
It carries. All right, next that will take us to ordinances to be adopted. We have 7 ordinances, Commissioners, because item 4 was pulled after our discussion this morning. So we'll start with our first ordinance.
Ordinance number 1, ordinance amending section 1 of the budget ordinance 2018-35 for fiscal year 2019, amendment number 1.
All right, can I get a motion?
Support.
All right, Commissioner Repart, you want to tell us about this?
Yeah, so just 2 things. One is receiving a grant from Our Community's Children for $15,000. And the other one is just our portion of a COPS grant from 2016. No change in our contingency balance.
Thank you. All right, Commissioners, any questions, comments? All right, this is a roll call vote.
Commissioner Reppert?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor?
Yes.
Mayor Bliss?
Yes, and can I get a motion to give this immediate effect?
So moved.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, that'll take us to our second ordinance tonight to be adopted.
Next one, ordinance amending section 4.1 of ordinance 2016-33, establishment of a new classification, skilled trades recruiter, and is also a title change for a training coordinator.
So moved.
Support.
All right, Commissioner Kelly, you want to tell us about this?
Yes, I'd be happy to. The Human Resources Department, working with other departments that utilize skilled trade positions, and along with the bargaining units, met to figure out a strategy to address our skilled trade personnel shortage problem. We're not the only ones. I know the private sector is struggling with this as well. So this skilled trades recruiter classification is a position that will lead and manage all the skilled trade program activities here, as well as create and track metrics and performance deliverables of these programs. And then the second position is for the training manager. A classification review of the training coordinator job description was done by HR, and a determination was reached that both the job description and the classification title needed to be updated.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any questions? All right, this is also a roll call vote tonight.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor?
Yes.
Commissioner Reppert?
Yes.
Mayor Bliss?
Yes. All right, that'll take us to our third ordinance before us tonight.
Ordinance amending the zoning ordinance relative to group child care homes and residential zone districts.
So move.
Support.
All right, Commissioner Lanier, you want to tell us about this?
Absolutely. So back in January, we considered these amendments with quite a few other amendments, and this one was omitted when we adopted the ordinance. So we're just bringing this one back in to make sure that it's included.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, any questions? All right, this is a roll call vote tonight.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor?
Yes.
Commissioner Ruppert?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Bliss?
Yes, and can I get a motion to give this immediate effect?
So move.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, that'll take us to our next ordinance. On our list of ordinance, it's number 5.
Yes, it is an adoption of zoning ordinance text amendments to allow marijuana facilities.
All right, can I get a motion?
Moves.
Support.
All right, Commissioners, we have had quite a bit of conversation about this. What you have before us is a revised version based on our discussion and amendments that we voted on and supported this morning. Any additional questions, comments, Commissioner Kelly?
Yes, I just noticed a mistake. So if you look at page 2, under from provisioning centers and from other medical marijuana facilities, it's just an error. It says unless waived by the operator. That should be by the church.
Facility?
Or, yeah.
Yeah.
No, facility.
Maybe Suzanne can speak to that. Is
Yeah.
operator and facility perceived as the same?
No, I'm not sure if that's...
I think it's the operator of the...
Well, if you read it, 1,000 foot from publicly owned...
I think it's the operator of the facility in question because we left it open from the various types.
Because it's multiple.
Right.
Because it's multiple types, so it's the
Okay.
operator of whatever type of
Okay.
facility. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, you're on page 2 of the ordinance?
Yes.
Yeah. Where it says unless waived by the operator.
Look at this little blow drive you
I know,
have here.
exactly.
This is cute.
Listen, I am 11 days from the wedding, and it had to happen today, so.
Ew, practice. All right.
So that's
I don't love the shower. No drive between meetings today.
So Suzanne, the question, earlier we talked about waiver, unless waived by the facility. It says operator. I think the concern is that's maybe perceived as the operator of the marijuana
License.
facility.
Yeah.
So the way the ordinance is written, did you look at the, so to consent by the owner of the sensitive use that is signed and notarized shall be provided with the application.
So there's additional language
Inside the ordinance.
inside the
So
ordinance.
the actual
that
ordinance
clarifies.
language is what we worded it as.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank
All
you.
right, good. I had...
Good catch.
yeah.
Commissioner?
Well, I appreciate you bringing the point up about the waiver because I think that is, listening to the concerns that we've heard tonight from some of the folks in the audience about the restrictiveness of this. I think we're looking at this, as Commissioner Kelly talked about a bunch today, looking at how it's kind of mirrors or parallels alcohol use. And so in alcohol use, you have a state mandated 500-foot buffer from a church or a school. However, there's a waiver that allows those to exist. And so for people that are going to come into the community, they still have, they have the ability to add more parcels to this mix inside of that 2,000-foot buffer, but they have to ask for permission if they're within a certain threshold, which mirrors the parallel language to the way alcohol approvals are done. And so while the map looks like there's not a lot of opportunity in some of the traditional business zones, there are, if in fact you acquire a property or acquire a stake in a property, whether that's a lease or an option or a purchase agreement, and then receive a waiver from said impacted operator that is near you. And so it's not ruling them out, it's saying if you're going to come into our community, you have to be a good actor and demonstrate to those other users that the business that you're going to operate is going to be congruent and harmonious with the neighborhood and the business district and the adjacent business users. And so I don't think that's that's why we put the waiver in there, trying to be sensitive but still allow good actors to operate within our community.
Yeah, thank you. I realize not everyone is privy to our lengthy conversation this morning, but it really was finding that balance of making sure that neighborhoods had voice in this process, and that, quite frankly, is a top priority to many of us.
Yes, and Mayor, one more thing. I just wanted to add to that, while we certainly welcome all of the public comment we got at both the planning, at the hearing 2 weeks ago, and then at our public comment this evening, from our residents and from people from Oregon, Kalamazoo, Kentwood, Buchanan, Lansing, Toronto, Holland, and more. who do not live in the city, I hope that you understand that we cannot ask our own taxpayers to take the risk of accepting applications, not knowing whether Lara will approve them, because then they are actually shelling out money for administrative costs before we even know. So I hope you understand that, and that we do recognize the medical benefits, but we have a different place than you do. Those of us seated around the table who represent our residents are trying to weigh multiple concerns. So we do appreciate your input very much, but I hope you understand our position.
All right, Commissioners, any other comments before I ask for a roll call vote, Commissioner?
Just quickly, Mayor, so in addition to the robust discussion from this morning, we also talked about having a work session where we can talk about the concerns that people have with making provisions for our youth and having an educational component to this, or prevention component to this. So that's something that we'll talk more about during our work session. In addition to that, we'll talk more about the tax revenue and what to do with the tax revenue. We talked a little bit about that today as well, and how do we allocate those dollars to things that, number one, would impact youth positively and educate youth, but also try to make impact on areas of concern across the city, such as lead, and abating that in ways is an idea. And so I think Commissioner Kelly said it best, that we're weighing a lot of concerns, and just because you did not see people coming here tonight, or you did not see them at the hearing, does not mean that we have not heard their voices, because there are a lot of ways for the community to weigh in, and there are a number of people in professional industries who have shared their concerns about rehabilitation, who've shared their concerns about neighborhoods and locations of dispensaries, who've shared their concerns about being able to get into the business locally, and we talked about that at great length as well. How do we narrow the scope so that we can have more local people? And local may mean Michigan, it may mean the county, it may mean Grand Rapids, and just looking at how our hands are tied with some of the laws, but also asking staff to go back and figure out a way to see where there is a loophole. And if it may be something that we wouldn't put in this ordinance, but maybe there are other things that we can do, and we'll talk more about that, I'm hopeful, during the work session, because Grand Rapids is a leader and we have blazed trails before. So I'm hoping that we can figure out a way to have what the staff put in into their hybrid option that they shared with us regarding the recreational marijuana, into figure out a way somehow to make sure that we have local provisions for disenfranchised communities. Someone talked about minority and women-owned businesses. So we are thinking about all of that, but also take into consideration that we're making this decision really quickly. We don't make decisions this quickly. So, I don't know how else to say this, but this is the best that I think we can do based on how much time and energy that has been put into this, with the countless meetings from so many members from our staff, with countless meetings that we've had personally and phone calls and emails that we've read. This is, I think, the best that we can do, trying to take all perspectives into consideration. I thank everyone who has engaged in this topic, who knew that there were so many people so interested in one way or the other, but I appreciate where we are today.
Thank you. Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioners, any other questions or comments? All right, I will do a roll call vote then.
Commissioner Lanier?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor?
Yes.
Commissioner Repart?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Mayor Bliss?
Yes.
Motion is done.
Motion carries. All right, next that will take us to our another ordinance, rezoning ordinance for Division Avenue.
Ordinance rezoning 424 South Division Avenue to traditional neighborhood transit-oriented development from traditional neighborhoods transitional city center.
All right. Support. All right, Commissioner O'Connor, you want to tell us about this?
Yeah, this is the rezoning of a 2.47 acre parcel located on the south side of Wealthy Street between Division and Sheldon Avenues. And it compromises the entire block except for a 9,000 square foot parcel at the corner of Sheldon and Logan. This site's served by our Silver Line BRT, with a stop on the west side located along Division, and other than the gravel parking lot at the northwest corner, the site's vacant, and this is in anticipation of rezoning this for an affordable housing project.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioners, any questions about this? All right, this is also a roll call vote tonight.
Commissioner O'Connor?
Yes.
Commissioner Ruppert?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier?
Yes.
Mayor Bliss?
Yes. I wasn't sure what you were going to say, Commissioner. All right, that'll take us to our next ordinance tonight.
My program here. Ordinance adopting a major amendment to Knapp's Corner Special District Planned Redevelopment District to reconstruct, relocate, and expand an existing gas station.
All right,
So moved.
Support. All right, Commissioner Jones, you want to tell us about this?
Yes, Mayor. Meyer is seeking a major amendment to the approved PRD to rebuild and expand the existing gas station and convenience store on the site. Waivers to the minimum building and parking lot setbacks in the East Beltline Overlay District are requested to facilitate that expansion.
I think Asante went out there to try to get them to quiet down a little bit. All right, so Commissioners, any questions about this? I think we're all familiar with the area.
Neighborhood support?
Yeah,
from Nika.
I was just going to ask if Nika weighed in.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Do you all know if they'll have the Octane 85 there?
They already have it.
Oh, good.
They're going to have a whole. They're going to have a whole lot of it.
Stations.
They have it.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
I'll check on a charging station.
Yeah. They're going to have a whole lot of
But
it.
they have the 85 octane.
Good, I'm curious.
Good to know. Good to know. All right, this is a roll call vote tonight.
Yeah, Commissioner Ruppert?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor?
Yep.
Mayor Bliss?
Yes. All right, that'll take us to our last ordinance to be considered tonight.
Ordinance adopting a major amendment to the Special District Planned Redevelopment District at 3000 Monroe Avenue Northeast and 2925 Rura Avenue Northeast.
So moved.
Support?
All right, Commissioner Lanier, you want to tell us about this?
Yes, so speaking of us not making decisions quickly, if you ask the people who've been involved in this, they will tell you how many times they've been to meetings to talk about this topic. But we had a public hearing, and at our last meeting, I think it was, that it was established that the adoption for this ordinance, and it's for the Veterans Facility. And I think it's being changed from, I'm trying to get to SDPRD. So what was it before? I'm not seeing, Suzanne, what it was before, but I see that it's being changed now to a
I
special
think it's
district.
just a major, sorry.
Go ahead.
It's a major amendment.
Okay.
So it's not changing a district, it's
Okay.
making an amendment.
It's amending the plan.
I got you.
Thank you. So that's it. And then Sunshine Church is the church that'll be moving on that, I think renovating that facility.
All right, Commissioners, any questions? We have heard about this project quite a bit. And there have been lots of neighborhood meetings about it because land use is important.
Yes.
So with that, can I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Lanier?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Connor?
Yes.
Commissioner Ruppert?
Yes.
Mayor Bliss?
Yes. All right, we don't have any resolutions before us tonight, so that will take us to our scheduled public hearings. Commissioners, I'd like to take public hearing 1 and 2 together. It's about the same project, just 2 different items. So can I get support for them?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll read them both into record. I will ask Kara to speak to them, and then we'll call up the folks from Graham to join us. Kara, let me read them first. So this is a public hearing to consider the establishment of a plant rehabilitation district for Grand River Aseptic Manufacturing for a project proposed at 524 and 528 Butterworth Street Southwest. And then a public hearing to consider approval of an industrial facilities exemption certificate for the same company, Grand River Aseptic Manufacturing, or known as Graham, for a project proposed at 524 and 528 Butterworth Street Southwest. The notice for these hearings were given pursuant to state law. So we'll start this public hearing with Kara providing some information about the organization and this request, and then we'll turn it to commissioners for questions, and then we'll open up for public comment.
Thanks, Mayor. Tonight's public hearing is about Grand River Aseptic Manufacturing Incorporated. They are a life science business with multiple locations in and around downtown. They provide various services, including pharmaceutical development, manufacturing, analytical testing, regulatory filing support. This company was recently acquired by a private equity firm out of Washington, D.C., and they're planning a major expansion here in our community. This is in order to accommodate both current and projected future demand. The company is planning to more than double its production space by constructing a 60,000 square foot pharmaceutical manufacturing facility on Butterworth Street Southwest on property that they have acquired. This investment is anticipated to be approximately $39 million for the manufacturing facility, as well as $21 million in equipment acquisitions. The company currently employs 153 individuals at various locations. 62 of these employees, or about 40% of these individuals, are residents of the city of Grand Rapids. Graham has committed to creating 34 new jobs over a 2-year period. However, they are expected to create 107 new jobs over the next 5 years. The average wage for these positions will range from $20 an hour for semi-skilled positions to $32 an hour for professional positions. Overall, the average wage for these positions is estimated at $26.24 an hour. All of the positions have benefits. In addition to the city's consideration for support through the tax exemption, this project is also seeking support from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation in the form of their economic development job creating incentives. And so the city's support could serve as local match for that state support. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have about the project, or turn it over to Tom Ross, the company's president, to describe a little more about what they're planning to do.
All right, thanks. Commissioners, any questions for Kara? All right, then I'll introduce Tom. Tom is with us tonight from Graham. I'll share with you, Commissioners, I had the opportunity to spend some time with Tom at Graham and get a tour, and it's a really amazing story, your company. And this expansion is exciting, not just for Grand Rapids, but for the west side. So welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's an honor to be here. And last time I was here, I think I made a joke about our company known as Graham, not to be confused with the Art Museum. And but we've had just a tremendous run over the last several years, and a lot of it has come with your support, and we appreciate that, and thank you. It's when we started this company, we started to open our doors in January 2011, and that first year we had 16 employees. And if you include the temporary employees that we have, those numbers have grown significantly, and I'll rattle those off for you. Something we can all be proud of. We went from 16 employees to 25 to 37, 55, 110, 137, 165, and about 190 today. We actually have become the 9th fastest growing company in the state of Michigan, according to Inc. 5000. They have a ranking they put out each year. And that growth rate in the last published 3-year period, we grew by a total of 791%. So other companies are proud of 15 to 20% annually. We did 791% in a matter of 3 years. And our growth rate has continued to be exceptional. And but we're at a point now where we've done so well that we are capacity constrained. We did have, as Kara mentioned, we had a significant investment from a large private equity firm out of Washington, D.C. They own the majority of our company at this point, and they've been incredibly supportive of our desire to expand here in Grand Rapids. And we've identified, as Kara mentioned, a total of about $60 million that would be invested into our community. And to have an outside company based in D.C. support Grand Rapids and really how significant this is to our community has been fantastic. So we are deeply appreciative of your support. I'm glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. And Tom, I know we talked about a lot of things about your company, and there's a number of things I was impressed with. But will you share with the commission your average wage?
Yeah, the average wage is about $58,000. And we have a number of people that we recruit that are pushing 6 figures. The positions we have are highly technical. We have positions in microbiology, chemistry, quality, very technical skills. Most of our people, even operators that start our company, have a biomedical or some form of biological type degree and a science degree. And we've been very fortunate to recruit people from outside the area to come into the area, which has always been exciting. It's been pretty fantastic to see a number of our younger people continue to grow with our organization. And I like to think we're in the wheelhouse of what we're trying to do here in West Michigan as well as Michigan. We're life sciences, we're advanced manufacturing, great jobs, growing quickly, and investing in our community.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Commissioners, any questions?
Well, I would just like to congratulate you. I remember when you first came before this body, when you just started, and it's just phenomenal, the growth, and we're so pleased that you're here.
Thank you.
Yeah, agreed. Our West Side commissioners are lucky to have you and this growth. Yeah. And you know, one other thing I think is important to point out is just your strong relationship with the universities. Yeah. And even, you know, having an opportunity for talent to stay here and find a great job is fantastic. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you. So Tom, if you want to take a seat, I'll open this up for public comment. So if you are here specifically to speak on these requests related to the Plant Rehabilitation District or the Industrial Facilities Exemption Certificate, now's an opportunity to come forward. All right, seeing none, I'm going to close that public comment period, and both of these items will be referred to the Committee of the Whole. All right, and Tom, we'll all look forward to the invite for the groundbreaking. All right, next that will take us to a public hearing on our 3rd Ward City Commission candidates. So I think I'll turn to Commissioner Lanier. She's really led this process, both through the subcommittee process and then through the interview process today. I'll let her say a few words about process, and then we'll open this up for public comment.
Thank you, Mayor. So thank you to my colleagues for your trust that we could come up with a process that would work for our citizenry, and I think we have done just that. I want to thank the clerk and his assistants and analysts in the department for all of the work, because they did the work. We just kind of showed up and pretended like we had done a lot. And so we started off with 11 applicants, and one of the applicants was not a 3rd Ward resident, which eliminated that person from the process, which then got us to 10 applicants, and then we had someone to withdraw, and then we had another applicant who did not interview. So now we're at 8 candidates who we interviewed on, help me out, gentlemen, 2 weeks ago. And we had a subcommittee that was made up of 3rd Ward residents to interview all of those candidates. It gave us an opportunity to meet them all. One was via phone, but we had an opportunity to meet them all. And they were able to share a little bit more about themselves. They completed an application. So in a part of that application process, we asked I think 5 essay questions, so that we could get some insight into what it is and why they were considering serving as the 3rd Ward Commissioner, and what it is that they wanted to accomplish, and their thoughts about what was happening in city government. They went through the interview process, and that subcommittee recommended to the commission 3 of those candidates to be interviewed today. And those 3 candidates were, and I'm going to give it in the order in which we interviewed, Nathaniel Moody, Austin Dean, and Ryan Anderson. And so earlier this afternoon, we had a chance as a full commission to interview all of the candidates, and asked, I think, 21 questions of all of the candidates, and they were able to ask us questions, and I think we had an opportunity where we were able to learn a lot, and they each brought unique gifts. And I thought they all did a really good job, and it was really great getting to know them. I personally didn't know 2 of them, and so it was really a good opportunity to meet them all. And it was also great to hear their responses to the question, if you're not selected, would you run again? And Commissioner Kelly asked that question. I thought it was a really good question and really thoughtful responses. And if nothing else, I'm eager to make sure that in the 3rd Ward that not only the 3 gentlemen who participated today, but some of the others who participated a couple weeks ago, that we can add their names and their applications to our commissions and boards so that we can get them connected to some of the I don't know how many we have, Daniel, commissions and boards, over 40. And so we want to make sure that we get them connected. So I'm eager to do that. I don't know when the dust settles, whenever that'll be. So that's
after the election.
After the election, November election or August? Okay. So so that's kind of the opening. Colleagues, I don't know if you have anything to add or questions before we have the public hearing.
I don't.
So
other
then
than
Mayor,
to
I'll
say,
turn it back over to you.
Yeah. Other than to say thank you and thank you to the subcommittee who did the first round. So with that, if you're here tonight to speak about the third ward candidates, now's an opportunity to come forward. We ask you to follow the same rules that apply to our other public hearings. We ask that you share your name, the city that you live in, and we'll be giving you up to 3 minutes to speak. Hi, welcome.
Hello, my name is Clarkston Morgan. I'm a resident of Kentwood. I'm here to speak on behalf of Ryan Anderson. Granted, I know the 3 participants because of the work that I do in ministry throughout the city of Grand Rapids, but this gentleman and I have had a long-term relationship as he is was the foster father of my adopted daughter. And so in regards to church ministry, things within the city, regards to the relations, I've been very close to work with him and his family. A lot of times people don't know, yes. So I know different ones of you here already. We have different boards we served on and different things we've done, but didn't know my relationship with Ryan Anderson, so we have a lot of history, and I believe that you're going to pick the best candidate, but to know the regards to the history with him, that he is a very reliable individual that has served on numerous boards in regards to the impact of the city, from Kids Food Basket to numerous organizations that I know I have partnered with in order to have an impact through the schools and through multiple nonprofits. So I thank you very much for this opportunity to be able to speak on his behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Clark. All right, others who wish to be heard?
Hello, my name is Scott Coy, and I live in the 3rd Ward. And I've known Ryan for almost 20 years. Met him in Chicago. Actually, we were paired up to co-lead a men's Bible study. So I've had an opportunity to see him lead, and I've had an opportunity to see him serve. And I would say that those are his 2 best strengths, serving and leading. Turns out he started dating a woman that sang at church and married her, and a few years later I did the same thing. I didn't really think I was following, but I guess I was. He always was talking about how great Grand Rapids was, and at the time I had lived in Chicago for 54 years, and I thought, I've never even heard of anybody going there. What's so great about it? 7 years ago, my wife and I moved here after I retired, and we bought a home in Heritage Hill, and now I also love Grand Rapids. So once again, I think I'm following him around. And then, of course, we needed to find a church, so we looked at about 10 or 15, and guess where we ended up? Same church Ryan went to. So I'm a very reluctant follower, but I do look forward to following him if he gets this position and seeing where he takes me next. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott. We're glad you're in Grand Rapids. Keep recruiting folks from Chicago. All right, others who wish to be heard. Again, this is for the 3rd Ward City Commission candidates. I know what you're going to talk about, Mr. Miller. I could guess.
What's Doug Miller back? You tell me.
You liked the individual who spoke about mobility and transit.
Well, that's right. And also I'm somewhat encouraged by his CEO otherwise an applicant there at the ramp, and he has experience as a Chicago commuter and rider at a couple of cities in Chicagoland, Niles and I think way up north. You're right about that. What I object to is a number of things. Is the third ward was excluded. Bus routes, the third ward don't come here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 19 was kicked off, and they're unfamiliar with that. So this gentleman has, although I'm not specifically recommending anyone, this gentleman with the Chicago experience, he does speak of gaps of, it wasn't, it's not connected. He's wasting 2/3, way too much time. Transferring food at full station down there. And so your routes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, third ward, don't go any farther north. And I mean, they're buried in below viaducts in Central Station, and that's like all of our south side bus routes in Chicago would be buried beneath the Roosevelt viaducts. It doesn't happen. Next, this would have more third ward credibility if Denard Robinson were on your panel, and also Dr. Pulliam and her son and Denard Robinson. They're excluded. Why? Those guys pay taxes out there out south, and you put on Sam Cummings. He's probably the biggest tax dodger in Grand Rapids history, and maybe right now one of the biggest tax dodgers in Michigan. And why he's a second ward guy? Why was he up there? And most of the people up there I didn't recognize. Well, certainly this is the city commission's job to find a third ward, but the commissioner appointed him. But it should have been pre-vetted by a subcommittee with third ward credibility. Thank you very much. So the whole process tonight, city bus routes from the largely African American South Side here are excluded, third ward, and that also had an impact on the applause with the pothead crowd and the pothead profiteer crowd. They also, but you couldn't see all the people in back sitting down, okay? And their bus routes get to come here and ours don't. So that's a form of applause. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. All right, others who wish to be heard, and again, this is on third ward city commission candidates. All right, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close that public hearing period. That'll take us to our next item, and that is our overall general public comment period. So if you are here to speak about anything else that is on your heart or your mind tonight, you are welcome to come forward. Again, the same rules apply. We ask that you share your name and the city that you live in, and we'll give you up to 3 minutes to speak. Mr. Townsend, you coming up?
I wrote my name down earlier.
All right, thank you for doing that.
My name is Johnny Townsend. I live at 10 Delaware. I'm coming in. I'm gonna make this real quick. When I was having that little thing with Grand Rapids Housing, I tried to get a place over at Bretton Ridge Apartments, and they had it that I owed them back rent, in which they gave me $1,900 to move because they said that I was a headache. If I'd owed them back rent, they would have took it out of that. I talked to them today, and they said that they would straighten it out. But the problem with that there is that they put this into a collection agency. And I called today, well, yesterday or today once, and asked them, would they get that off of my credit record? And I have no idea whether they did it or not, but I would call them tomorrow. And if they don't get it off my credit record, I will be taking it back to court because it got right there on the paper. No negative comments. None. I would bring it down and show it to you. Was no negative comment. Judge Janine Levine's court.
Judge
and I really don't want that headache no more. But if they don't get that off of my record, there's a 90% chance that I will be going to see a lawyer. I want it off my record because the court said, don't do this here. They did call Bretton Ridge Apartments and said that I owe no back rent. But the lady over there, the manager over there said, well, they have put this into a collection agency, Mr. Townsend. So you get in touch with them and tell them to get that off of your record. I called them early this morning. I don't guess they did get back to me and told me that they sent it over telling them I didn't owe them any rent. But they didn't get back with me about taking that off of my credit record. And I would really appreciate it if they did it. I would really, really appreciate it if they took that off of my credit record. because I was wondering why my credit score was going up so high. And then one of the reasons because they said all them back rent of $2,700. I don't even think I paid them $2,700 out of 11 years I stayed there. I paid them more than that there, but I know that there's no way nobody will let you stay long enough for you to owe them $2,700, you know, without evicting you. So I just wish that they would get it off of my record. I would really appreciate it.
All right.
Because I have no intentions of calling them anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Townsend. All right, others who wish to be heard? Hi, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners, but I'd like to say a special hello to my former student who made teaching a privilege and an honor. Okay?
She's doing a fantastic job, by the way.
Okay. I'm 84 years old, and I just walked from Eastern Hall just to get down here. Wow. I have a comment about a particular ordinance or a situation. I understand in the city of Grand Rapids, if a home is not occupied by an owner, it's automatically classified as rental property. And I don't understand that. I have 3 homes. I bought, my mother and father, we bought a home on the southeast side after the highway came through and took our home on the west side. I have a home there now that I'm interested in. I'm selling it. But the thing is, I had this home. I had a gentleman one day come by and tell me he was evicted. His family had been evicted. I didn't know who he was at the time. I told him I have a home. You're welcome to live there free until you can find someplace to go. He stayed with his family for 10 years, free. He happened to be Nelson Mandela's nephew. He had been evicted from South Africa because of his fighting against apartheid. He was a professional journalist and a photographer. And his articles could not be printed in South Africa. They always had to be printed up in Europe someplace. He was thrown in jail many, many times. And so, like I said, they evicted him. His family had to escape themselves to get into the country. They were here under the, when the UN came up with political asylum. So again, I let him stay there for 10 years, free. I have a home in Granville. I have a family there that's been there since 2013, and they are there free also. So I'm not out to make a buck renting. I don't want to rent. What I want is, if I have a home, I want to know that I have the right to let people live there free. I don't want it to be classified as a rental property. When I look in the Webster Dictionary and look at rent and look at rental property, money transaction has to take place. And I've never done that. I just want to know that I'd like to have this home lifted from being a rental home when I'm not charging anything there at all. And I think you need to consider that, because that's just a broad statement and you don't take it, you know, like again, some of us are not interested in making a buck. We're trying to do something good with our life, and I want to continue to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Mayor, I didn't catch the name.
Edward Mulligan.
Santi, do you mind getting his contact information for me? Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that we should definitely look into this and see what we can do. Perhaps, I don't know whether this goes to the attorney or to housing. Well, you'd be biased, of course, but
we'll let our city attorney follow up.
Mr. Millian, as one of your former students, I can say you've already done a lot of good things with your life. Rob Metzger from East Grand Rapids. Spend most of my time at 312 Prospect Northeast here revisiting the committee in regards to the traffic signal at Prospect in Michigan. Tom, I'm sorry you're sitting in the spot where Mr. DeLong usually does, so I'm going to make you Mr. DeLong for the night, if you'll bear with me. But I promise no bull tonight for the commissioners.
Thank you. Keep it clean.
Anyway, just to finish up, In regards to the traffic studies and the material misrepresentation of what was a suitable study to be used to make the decisions that were made, I realize there's a difference in standards between the private sector and the public sector. And in my experience in the private sector, the majority of that in healthcare institutions, in regards to recklessness, in regards to public protection, and in my case, patients, I personally fired people for a whole lot less than the discretion used here. Getting back to Housing Now initiatives, I just thought I'd reflect on the things that I've learned and looking at how things get affected, and I have to change my view in that I had initially supported all of them because I believed in the logical fallacy that the city could be a fair arbiter of those matters. But what I've learned is the city abuses its discretion. Staff, not necessarily the commission, but you as commissioners have failed as far as your oversight, which also disqualifies any of those ordinances changes suggested that take the neighborhood input out of the factor, out of the situation. That should be maintained going forward. I'm sorry. I wish I didn't feel that way against my own self-interest, but it's a larger question than my own. I guess lastly, I have some good news. The good news is the litigation with Grand Valley State and myself is ended. That being, it's put to bed, won't be going forward. The only other option at this point is for me to pursue something against the city, which, despite the probabilities of success, is not something I intend to do. I was at the Board of Trustees meeting for Grand Valley State University, and to be honest, I was so stunned and kind of offended that I won't be pursuing action against the city because I no longer feel about making that investment of time or energy in regards to the city. So that would be the bad news. And I'm done for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, others who wish to be heard?
Watchdog Miller back addressing some false statements earlier under marijuana. We have common events where I live, the last two places I've lived going back to 2005. And I inquired with a prominent official, city official in the back of the room, if she has common events in her building, and her exact quote is, "My building is common HVAC." So when the marijuana crowd, the potheads and pothead profiteers say there are no victims, there are. There are people in apartments who made a career of never smoking marijuana and don't want it. We're fighting existing and nicotine already in our building, so we are potential victims, and I don't see it being addressed, at least by the pothead profiteer crowd. Next on CEO, which apparently is up a little bit, well, for city manager, I'm leaning towards city manager should be directly elected. I kind of opposed it earlier because that was a power grab by Hartwell, but in this case, when kind of a new slate, the city manager really makes all decisions and very little changes when new people come in here. It's, as you know, it's the city manager's system government, and his power has grown, and the power grabbing, it's not strong on the 6th floor. The people, it's been very politicizing, starting with Stacy Stout. The only way to counter that is to have directly elected city manager, I would think, for 4 years. Should there still be a mayor? Well, somebody should have to preside over the meetings, but we should be involved in terms of city policy and being able to elect our city manager. Everything flows from the manager. I mentioned tax dodger Sam Cummings earlier. CWD, you see all over the city. You got maybe 70% of the buildings don't pay taxes, second ward guys. Why was he at the table, whereas others with third ward credibility going back decades were not up there? I think that's all I have, and it's It's an easy night for you. Last time it was 10:40. One other great thought is I think that the city clerk's office should be able to take Wednesdays off until 1 o'clock Wednesdays when they have these very long city.
You get 2 more minutes tonight, watch out.
My kind of guy. All right. That's my Chicago
to
without
decide
breath.
that.
Thank you very much.
Thank
But
you,
no, I
Mr.
mean, they
Miller.
really we'll be getting better work out of them. They
Us
get
having Wednesday mornings off.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, maybe have 1 or 2 clerks there, but the rest of them should have the day off. It's exhausting. Commission Tuesdays are exhausting for them. Thank you very much.
Mr. Miller. Thank you. Thank you for looking out for our city clerk. Appreciate that.
Wow, it's only 9 o'clock. John Rothwell, 2nd Ward. Just observations from the city. I was not at the Commission of the Whole meeting today. I watched it online, and I think the city is blessed with one individual. And I'm going to go out on a limb here, but Susan Schultz was so prepared for this meeting today that I watched that we have a gem that everybody ought to be proud of with the work that she put into this whole thing today. So I just want to say that, and I disagree with her on a lot of things, but today I'm standing up for her. So a couple things that I noticed around the city. I really like to see a soccer field built downtown, mixed use with rugby. I think now's the time that we could have a small soccer team or field here that would support in the Founders area. It'd be great to see hundreds of people marching from Founders down to the soccer field and cheering and yelling and that. I'd like the city commission to take a look at straws and plastic straws, and maybe not make an ordinance, but make a recommendation or a suggestion that we suggest that you don't make it an opt-in for straws instead of handing them out to everybody. The city says, hey, it'd be cool if somebody asked for a straw, you gave it to them at sit-down restaurants and bars, or non-plastic straws, something that's a big movement right now on the West Coast, and I think that would be great. The city doesn't have to make an ordinance, but it would be nice to see the city take a proposed or statement if they could do that type of thing. Fast food restaurants would be exempt. You know, you need the straw when you go through a drive-through or whatever it is, but when I sit down at a restaurant, I don't need a straw, but I also know there are people that refuse to drink out of glasses without a straw, so if you opt in for a straw, so be it, opting out would be a great. So maybe the city should say, hey, just opt out, opt in, whatever. And I don't know. You know, I'm just trying to kill time here to make this go to 10:40 again. So I have nothing better to do and, on a Tuesday night at 9 o'clock. And the other thing I want to mention, which is serious, I'm going to be mentioning this every time I come up here to speak in open comments, is that we are still engaged in a war in Afghanistan. And we must remember that in the Middle East. And we must support our veterans and our people in combat right now. And I want that to be noted. And we should recognize that we don't have a draft in America, so a lot of us don't know people serving right now. And haven't had that opportunity, but we need to take that into consideration. So, hey, thank you very much, and thank your planning commissioner.
Thank you. Thank you, John. All right, others who wish to be heard?
Hello, everyone.
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Miss Lewis, and I live in the 49507 district, Northwest. And I decided to come because I was going through some papers of mine, and I realized that I needed to come here and speak with you guys about this. I had gotten my license back in March or April, I believe it was April of this year. And it was after a lengthy time, because I was one of those people who could not afford the other fees that were tacked on to certain tickets. And I realized that there were some tickets that were added on when I went to try to get my license back, I felt like I was being shaken down because there were tickets that were taken off. And when I went to get my license back, they mysteriously appeared back on there. And I believe I was out of probably about $500 to $700 paying these tickets back. Like I said, that mysteriously appeared after years, and it's been since what, 2000 and I think it was 2005 or so since I had license. And here it is 2018 and tickets reappearing after we've been in the court, adjudicated these tickets, I paid tickets off, and to have them reappear, it's just unfair. And that took a lot of finance from my family. You know, I'm a single disabled parent. I need every penny that I can get. And I would very much appreciate it if you guys could look into that for me, because I do not feel that that was right. Not only because of the time lapse, but because there are tickets that were on there that I knew for a fact that the officers had told me, well, we could work something out, and things were worked out. And one ticket was even given to me when I was out of town. I was not even in town. I was in Arkansas in 2003 at my father's funeral. And I accrued a ticket for an abandoned vehicle. And I had went to court about it, talked to the police, everything was okay. All I had to do was bring my father's obituary in to show them what had actually transpired. That ticket reappeared, you know, and I would like to trust people in authority.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing this to our attention. All right, others who wish to be heard? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close that public comment period, and I will turn to my colleagues around this table. Commissioners, I'll start down with Commissioner Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to thank everyone who came out on this evening, those who came out throughout the course of the day, those who were present for our lengthy discussion on this morning around the medical marijuana ordinance. And again, just really thankful that we had the opportunity to unpack it like we did on this morning. I think it was most helpful. And kudos to Suzanne and her staff. It's been stated before, and I think it's worth being stated again, that they put in a lot of work. And we're talking about some complex issues, and I was just appreciative of the fact that what was presented to us was just, it was factual. It wasn't a whole lot of opinion, but it was factual. And so that means a lot, to be able to just base the decision on facts and what we're faced with in terms of making a decision. Also want to say that around the issue, I do look forward, as Commissioner Lanier has stated, I look forward to a more robust discussion around the work session. And I really, one of the things that I hope that comes out of this is that there is significant pressure, even if it's verbal pressure, or maybe perhaps pressure from the community, for those who are coming from the outside to establish business or establish themselves here around the medical marijuana business, that they recognize what's expected of them around the areas of partnership in our city. And although we've made the decision with the ordinance on today, I will tell you that what would impress me mightily is if we had companies who were coming from the outside who were very intentional in their efforts to seek partnership around ownership from folks locally. If that is, to be open to that type of possibility in particular, to seek out opportunities to partner within communities of color. I think that would make a significant statement. I think it would also perhaps begin a domino effect with other cities and states throughout the country with regards to how to address the issue around equity. That's, I think, a way in which you can be very creative and you can show that you're committed, because we can hear all day about what they're doing and what they're committed to, but you know, I want to see it by way of their efforts, and so that's my hope. That's what I'm going to put out there from here on in, is if you want to really be about what you say you are, then prove it by way of coming in and providing opportunities for local folks who want to engage in ownership. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner O'Connor?
Yeah, thank you. Wow, a lot to unpack today. Thank you for all of you, and to staff and to planning staff and to planning commissioners for the work that went into this medical marijuana stuff. It's just, again, it's complex and we still got a lot to talk about, but I think we ended up at a really good compromise place. That was, you know, that was sausage getting made right there in public today, and you know, it took a while, but I think we landed where we should have landed. You know, you know, we get some pushback tonight about again, opportunity for people, and you know, I think this morning I'm a little frustrated about the idea of having the setback differences from some of the other uses. But as we talk through it tonight, you know, again, I think it's a very good kind of check and balance that's going to exist. That, you know, as we look for people to be good partners and good actors in our neighborhoods and our communities, that, you know, my business is an alcohol business and it's across the street from a church. And how did that happen? I had to go over and have a conversation with the pastor and talk about how we wanted to run our business and what we were going to do and how we were going to be good partners for the neighborhood. And he's been a great partner for us, and I hope we've been a great partner for him and doing what we do and creating jobs and whatnot. And so it's possible, but you have to be willing to do that work and go have those tough conversations and make some compromise. And so I think that this is going to lead to some thoughtful outcomes as it relates to medical marijuana in our community. I do think it is important, we didn't really touch on it tonight, but dispelling some of the kind of, we're going to talk in the future about the micro-business stuff, and that really only relates to recreational marijuana. It has no impact on medical marijuana. So while that might have been a good proposal that's intriguing, and I think it's still very intriguing in the future, it didn't apply to the conversation today as it relates to medical marijuana facilities. And so to give that false sense of hope would have been disingenuous on our part. And so I think it's just important that, you know, we certainly are going to use what we've done today, and we're going to monitor it, and we're going to learn from the outcomes. And, you know, again, I think we've proven anything as a body, we have the ability to make change, and we're willing to, you know, do things and make changes if it's not working. And yeah, also just quickly want to just jump to the topic of the third ward. I know we had our public hearing, we didn't talk about it. I just didn't want to bring that up to my colleagues if we were going to talk about that tonight, if we're going to talk about that next week. I didn't really make clarification of that because we just moved through the agenda. So I'm not trying to interrupt the closing comments here, but
That's okay.
I did want to just give myself some clarification on that. So,
Lanier, so.
All right. And that being said, I appreciate everyone coming today and doing the interviews. It's, again, I think we have a hard choice ahead of us, and you know, we're looking forward to having our exciting about our city manager candidates.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Linney?
Yes, this has been a really interesting and fun-filled day.
Where we had lunch and dinner together.
Lunch and dinner together, yes. And Starbucks, no. No, it was just Joe who had Starbucks since he's snooty that way.
I'm more of a madcap guy anyway.
Sponsorship?
No, not yet. Give
not
us that.
Not yet. Okay, so I just, I think we did have a really good conversation, as we do typically, but it was really thorough and robust, and I want to thank again the city planner as well as the city attorney's office and all of the people behind them that helped them to make sure that, every time a new question came about, that they were trying to research and responding so quickly, and going to so many meetings and spending so many evenings out away from their families. Thank you for that sacrifice. And I think, as Commissioner O'Connor stated, I think we've gotten to a really good compromise. And as Commissioner Jones has mentioned, I am just looking forward to the work session because I think there's more to do. And in trying to figure out how do we address the things that on the surface appear as though we can't legally do those things, but in what other ways can we build in incentivize those who have the resources to come into our community to partner with local members of the community and whatever local means. And so I'm just excited that the next opportunity we'll have to speak about this comes before the actual policy goes into effect, so that when it's in effect, there will be some provisions, well thought out provisions. I am again thankful for the opportunity to be really, really close to having a partner in the 3rd Ward to kind of help to address the needs of our constituents. And Commissioner O'Connor asked the question, and I'm actually open to all of you. I feel like I personally can make a decision. I know we publicly talked about making the decision on the 31st. So I'm willing to kind of hear if you all, I don't want to rush anybody into making that decision either, but so it's up to you all.
So commissioners, feedback on that, or do you want to have the conversation and make a decision tonight on 3rd Ward?
And don't feel pressured. I don't want anybody to feel like, oh my goodness, I didn't think, but yeah.
Or do we want to maintain our special meeting next week on Tuesday morning and do it then?
At 8 a.m. Tuesday here.
I'm open to it.
Open to which?
To discussing it tonight.
Tonight?
Decision tonight. Commissioner
and
Jones?
you all on this side?
All right. Okay. Well, I'll let you start. I'll start actually, and just I think all 3 of our candidates are here. So Austin, Ryan, and Pastor Moody. So I want to say, 1, thank you for your willingness to serve and for putting your name in and going through this process. We really have 3 fantastic candidates who all have really amazing strengths. And so thank you. I think I can say that my colleagues around this table share that sentiment, and we appreciate you being here, but also really putting yourself out there, especially into the public realm, to go through this process. So thank you. So with that, I think I'll defer to my colleague in the 3rd Ward to get us started tonight.
May I go last?
Yes, you can go last if you would like.
No. I've been going first all day.
Well, you have led this process. As you said, this is the colleague for the 3rd Ward.
Yeah, so as prepared as I am, I'm slightly unprepared because what I wanted to do was, during the interviews, I felt like each of them said something that kind of stood out for me. And I kind of wanted to go through my little notes that are here in front of me to kind of highlight that. Besides the fact that they all said their wives were the person who they lean on in their confidants for difficult and challenging decisions, that was really good. So kudos to you all for that. But I just wanted to mention, I'll highlight a couple different things that I heard this afternoon. So I'll go in the order in which the interviews were. So I'll start with Pastor Moody. And so see, this is why I wanted to go last, because I didn't circle it earlier. So when we were talking about marijuana, so one of the questions that we asked each of the candidates was surrounding the decision that we had just made earlier. And it was kind of a real-time question to ask, and came up this morning to add that as a question. Commissioner Rephart asked the question, how would the candidate have made a decision about marijuana? And Pastor Moody passionately talked about how disenfranchised communities have been incarcerated due to indulging in illegal marijuana. And how do you, with a new policy, so going back to some of the things we've been wrestling with, how do you, with the new policy, number one, make sure that there's enough education, and I'm paraphrasing now, but that there's enough education so that we can continue to prevent. And so tonight, Pastor Moody, I'm not sure how much you heard this evening, but there were a lot of people coming and talking about prevention. And how do we make sure that our youth are taken care of, so that, because there are some winners and losers in this marijuana game. And we've been talking about that, and I guess the media has been talking about it since we've been here all day and night, today as well. And so the thoughtfulness into making sure that whatever it is that we're putting in place, that we're thinking about those who have been negatively impacted by marijuana, so that we can make sure that the right provisions are included. So that was Pastor Moody. And then Austin Dean, now I'm gonna look through my little notes here. One of the things that we asked was, and I think I asked the question, have you ever lobbied a local municipality? And he had a lot of experience, and even if it wasn't directly coming to the municipality, but on all levels of government, working on campaigns and on multiple issues, and many issues that are passionate for me, like schools and economic and employment and jobs. Parking may be something more important to Commissioner Kelly, but still important nonetheless. But I thought that those were some really good issues to be supportive of, and kind of working on a grassroots level and working on campaigns. It kind of demonstrates your passion. And schools education is definitely a passion of mine, as well as economic development. And so to know that you've worked on that actually impressed me, and that was a good point to hear. And then Mr. Anderson was the last candidate that we interviewed, and so the piece, and he's smiling because he already knows what I'm going to say, I think, and I don't know him really, and just met him today. But the piece that I actually enjoyed hearing about Mr. Anderson was the piece about being direct, being transparent, cutting to the chase, being thoughtful in the decisions that he's making. And I heard a lot about collaboration and listening and things of that nature. So those were things that and skills that I think make for a really good commissioner or legislator. So I thought that those were some really good things that he would bring. So those are my comments. And thank you all again for being here tonight and for your participation. Next up.
Thank you. Well, I'll add a few of my thoughts. And I'll start with Ryan. Ryan, I loved that you talked about innovation and prototyping and bridge building. In fact, I've had a lot of conversations with other mayors and with some city staff about prototyping. How do we do that in a public realm in a thoughtful way? Obviously, not everyone is excited when you talk about using public funds for experimentation and prototyping, but there's real value in that if you do it well and thoughtfully, and we can learn from mistakes and we can do more user testing before we make decisions. And so really appreciated your perspective on that. And I think we are ripe for embracing that type of work in the public realm, and especially in public organizations. And it was really a joy spending time with you and hearing more about your story and just your level of expertise really in a number of areas. Austin, I've seen you at work. I was familiar with your work at JR Current and at Stark Garden. I love that you're data driven. I actually like that you have your notebook. I do that as well, and I appreciate that level of attention and detail. I know that you have a brilliant mind because I've seen it at work, and you can look at the details and the data, but also you're a systems thinker, and you're able to see things I think that other people don't necessarily always see, and that's been really proven in the work that you've done. And Reverend Moody, I mean, you have been just a long-standing, amazing community member, business owner. You've been active in our city. You have supported a lot of our initiatives, but you've been around the table for difficult conversations. The most recent one with Community and Police Relations, you've worked on that for years. You have sat down with our chief on multiple occasions and listened and given really good feedback and I think guidance, quite frankly. Your participation in the Racial Equity Initiative that was started about a year ago has been absolutely instrumental in that work. And again, challenging people, as you said today, to really take a hard look in the mirror around unconscious bias and privilege, and really raising one's own individual awareness so that they can step up into a space and create change. And that I just really can't tell you enough how much I appreciate it, in addition to your other work that you've done in our community around school policy and on the school board, with youth throughout our community. So many young people have talked about you as a mentor, your work in supporting youth around youth employment. The list just goes on and on and on. And so I think all three of you have different qualities and strengths, and I'm so grateful that we have three candidates, three stellar, strong candidates to choose from tonight. So thank you all. Others want to weigh in and give some feedback on the three candidates?
Yeah, I'll just continue with the affirmations, because clearly we want to stay in touch with all three of you. So for Reverend Moody, I do just appreciate your depth and connection. I think, you know, as a person of faith as well, pastor gets to sit with people, and people in a lot of highs and low moments. And so I think that as community engagement is one of our top priorities, being able to activate those connections and those trusting relationships would be a huge asset to us. But for Austin, you know, talking about that 30-year view and the future of our city is growing like rapidly because millennials are moving into our city, and I love the idea, especially as we talk about our next city manager, of thinking 30 years ahead about how we want things to happen. And as one of the things that I'll say later, but I appreciate everybody on this body did their homework today, and I know that you would be somebody that would do that as well. Ryan, you were the person that reminded me the most of Dave Allen, in the sense that I can picture kind of like that empathetic persistence that he brought to this body, and so I really resonated with that. But I also loved on multiple occasions you said, "I'm a planner," and that's exactly what we're doing around this table. So affirmations for all three. Really thankful for the time that all three of you have invested in this process.
Thank you.
So I too want to thank you all for coming out and doing this publicly. It's not an easy job. I've done it myself, and you know, kind of feels like you are in the hot seat for a while, and that's not easy. So Ryan, I just want to underscore too my appreciation for your comments around innovation in the city. We're trying to do that in so many areas, including customer service, which you referenced. I think we're doing a good job. We've got a great leader in that area, in Becky Jo Glover, and doing our 311 customer service efforts. And I also appreciated your comments about the inclusive community. When you talked about aging, we are embarking on this effort to become a under the World Health Organization, to become an age-friendly community, and so that is something that we're really focused on right now, given the demographic changes in the whole nation. And so I really appreciate that, because that is something that is so important, that's included in that conversation about who needs to be included and not forgotten. Also appreciated your comments about what's the most and least successful successful projects or events or growth in our city, and how you talked about the pros and the cons of success. Whether it is our Cherry Street area, for example, that you gave and that you live in, so that we're confronted with both wonderful growth but also with displacement. And even Meyer Gardens, because I know that that's been a real conversation, that it's a beautiful place, but not everybody can even access it by the bus. Mr. Miller. And so I really appreciated that insight. And as well as your sympathy and understanding that we have a tiger to tame with this whole marijuana issue. I also wanted to just say that your comments about public transportation being important in this city. We recognize that as we are grappling with affordable housing, that that's a huge piece of it. People getting to and from work and not having to necessarily own a car. So I really appreciate that. I want to go on to my friend Austin Dean. First of all, I want to thank you. You have been so conscientious about kind of keeping a distance between you and myself, because you know that I do know you as a friend. But I really appreciate all of the thoughtful research that you did. I know that you are a person that does his homework always, and you always have been. You had some great ideas around affordable housing and how we might be able to capitalize that, which I appreciate. Would love to hear more of what your thinking is. And I know that you also have gone over and above with helping constituents who want to get into business. You referenced helping with a business plan, and that is something that we very much need, because that's one of the huge barriers to getting into a business, just being able to understand that you need to do that and then to do it well. And I know that that is a skill of yours, and that is an area that you went into at the university at Grand Valley. I also really appreciated the fact that you said that you acknowledge that you're not qualified to answer or to really understand maybe in depth all of the issues around community policing. And I think that that shows a great deal of humility and understanding that we can't all say that we know everything, that there's so much to learn, but that you're open to learning and open to understanding. And then Reverend Moody, I also know you and consider you a friend and advisor. We've talked before about issues around this commission table. And I did appreciate the fact that you are very experienced in this ward. You've had over 30 years of experience. I know that was a question that I was asked by one of the members of this commission when I was sitting in your seat. What have you done, not only recently, but what have you done over your whole period of life? And I know that you have been very much involved in the community police relations discussions and have made an effort to really listen carefully so that it's not us and them, but how do we get to us? I very much appreciate that. I also appreciate the fact that you have had not only experience in just being involved in the community, but also as a small local business owner of 2 funeral homes. So I think that's really important as we talk about local business. And of course, I also appreciate the fact that you would run regardless for this office, and appreciate that all of you have indicated that you would still want to get involved in the city and serve. So thank you all.
Thank you. Commissioner Jones or O'Connor, you want to add anything?
Sure. Yep. Thank you, Mayor. I will tell you that I put a lot of stock into, if I don't know a person, I put a lot of stock into those I do know and their knowledge of individuals. And so, although I don't know Mr. Dean and Mr. Anderson, I know individuals who know you very well. And these were individuals who were quick to call me to make me aware of why they thought you would be an ideal candidate or an ideal commissioner. And I was appreciative of that, because I put a lot of stock into what my friends have to say, especially when it comes to something as important as this. I can say, again, about Pastor Moody, whom I know very well, that wasn't the case. I didn't have to go too far to find out about Pastor Moody, because I've known him for so long. And I think that with all 3 of you, I will tell you that I guess for a couple of reasons you should all consider yourself blessed, because you didn't have to go through 6 weeks. You had to go, I'm just joking, I'm just getting it off my chest, but I got war wounds. But no, the fact that I commend you for going through a very public process, because you put yourself out there, and you do it in such a way to where the best case scenario is that you are wired in a way that you don't take things personal, because you have individuals you have us up here making a decision, but you also have the court of public opinion. You have individuals in the community who feel very strongly about who should be the next commissioner in the 3rd Ward, and that's not always easy to sit and take that type of constructive criticism or feedback. And so I commend all 3 of you for stepping into this this space and this place. I will say that with regards to Mr. Dean, I can very much appreciate your history and your work with GR Current Stargard, and I think it speaks to your commitment to the establishment and the importance of small business development. And I think that you would bring a plethora of experience with that, but also clearly an energy that would, I think, would enhance, our existing body. Mr. Anderson, in reading your credentials as well as hearing you on the phone and then seeing you here on today, a great appreciation that you use very much a human-centered design lens, I think, in a lot of what you do. I think it's connected to the work that you've done over the years in the furniture industry, as well as this desire to want to be involved, to want to be engaged, and to, again, really, state very clearly that you're someone who is very straightforward, that you don't necessarily subscribe to West Michigan Nice, and that you, I think, recognize, as do all 3 of you, the high degree of difficulty that we have with some of the issues that we're facing, simply because we are, I'm going to say it again, a legitimate medium-sized city with big city problems. And so there's the need to come into this work with the understanding that, as I also like to say, this is not your grandmother's politics. It's different today than it was, I would say, even 2 years ago. And so I think that, again, both Mr. Anderson and Mr. Dean would bring plenty to the commission. And lastly, with Pastor Moody, I think that with Pastor Moody, what you would bring is, I think, first and foremost, a very keen understanding of the 3rd Ward, but also of the city. You are the son of this city, and someone who has very much been there at the high points of the city as well as the low points of the city. You are someone who has significant credibility within the 3rd Ward, and I will tell you, as someone who is actively involved in community, there's nothing quite like being able to have established trust in the community in which you're serving. It just makes a significant difference to be able to go to people who perhaps they've already, to where perhaps it's your reputation precedes you, and there's this established trust. And so I think that you would bring significant credibility to the role, and I think that you teamed up with Commissioner Lanier would be a significant duo. I don't think it would be as significant as Commissioner Kelly and I, but hey, that's up for discussion. Just saying.
The first word shuffle over here, what?
Yeah, as well as, well, no, that's just, right? Okay. All right.
It's bumpy from all the way over there.
That's right. That's right. But I do.
Separate them.
I am elated that we had the opportunity to have 3 individuals who would bring significant gifts to our body here on the commission. And I think that ultimately, I think if there's one thing I could close with, it's that whoever selected, just understanding that this is just, if you can't see it as anything resembling a labor of love, then perhaps there ought to be a second thought, because it's just work that is, it's an emotional roller coaster, and yet it's something that it requires that you're all in. And so my hope is that, again, whoever is selected will recognize that there is the importance of being ready to hit the ground running, and you're going to be running for a while, because we got a lot of things happening, and we don't have time to really let up. So.
All right. Any final comments, and then I'm going to ask for a motion. Go ahead.
No, I just appreciate everyone doing this. It's it's a hard decision, and it's we're going to figure this out. We're going to be happy to serve with any one of the 3 folks that put their name forward. You've all got some amazing characteristics, and I just yeah, this is hard. So.
Thank you. Commissioner Lena, final comment?
So in African culture, there are phrases that I'll translate into how are the children. So those are greetings that in African culture they provide when they see one another. Because how the children are determines how the community is. And when we asked the question, in light of learning that there hadn't been significant investment in the third ward, we've allocated $750,000 to a third ward transformation fund. How would you propose using it? One of the candidates said, and I'll paraphrase again, invest in starting up businesses, invest in our seniors, and then that candidate spent a lot of time talking about education and contributing to our students, making sure that they understand a business mindset is what he said, because he said that when they understand that and they're invested in business, the entire community, everybody progress is what he said. And so in light of that, it just reminded me of some other characteristics that I heard through this interview process and in other ways, and that I think is valuable for the third ward. Someone who's experienced, someone who's transparent, someone who believes economic development is a priority, someone who has the experience with police and community relations, someone who's accessible, someone who's innovative, and I think Pastor Moody has demonstrated all these things in this community over decades. He is a bridge builder. He is passionate about education, as am I, and I believe education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. And that's a quote from Nelson Mandela that I used to say all the time as a school board member, but I truly believe that if we're making impact with our youth, we're going to make impact significantly in our city. Pastor Moody is a long-term third ward resident. He has been and is a third ward business owner. He, during the interview today, brought in a little history. I don't know if you caught the history lesson about what happened with South.
Yes.
And the impact. And in times when you have term limits, you know, O'Connor and I, we were just kind of joking during dinner about him being the senior commissioner for the first ward. And he's been here, this is year 3, and this is his 3rd year. So in times when we have term limits, history is important. And he schooled us real quick. And I don't know if he intended to do that, but just the knowledge that came from that quick moment of being educated on something that, quite frankly, I didn't personally know, that when South closed that there was an economic downturn and that we haven't fully rebounded from that. And because I'm working tirelessly with Southtown SID to make sure that we have an area-specific plan that addresses 5 business districts right now, to hear that historical perspective, that meant something to me. It did something to me, and it's probably more spiritual than anything else. And I thank you for that phrase, because it has impacted me. And it's that kind of historical knowledge and wisdom that is vitally important in this day and time. And so thank you for that. And those are my final comments. And I think, I don't know if I should be the one to make the motion.
I'm going to ask somebody to make it because I can't as the chair of this body.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Yeah, I move to nominate or to appoint Nathaniel Moody as our next third ward city commissioner.
Okay, and do I have a second?
Support.
All right, so that is the motion on the table. I think all of us have shared our thoughts about the different candidates. Is there anything that you would all like to add?
I guess a couple of things that resonated with me, just that, as you pointed out, Commissioner Lanier, and as we heard from Reverend Moody, and that I have heard over and over again, and it's educated me and enlightened me, because, you know, I serve the 2nd ward. It's in better shape. I have different kind of constituent complaints and needs. Right. But what I have heard over and over again is education and opportunity. And I thought that you reflected that in your comments today. And I did catch the South High history and certainly understood a lot of it, but the point that you made about how it also had this ripple effect into the economy and we truly haven't rebounded from that it does speak to that piece of history, like you mentioned, around term limits. So appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. All right, commissioners, anything to add before I call the question? All right, so the motion before us is to appoint Nathaniel Moody as our next Third Ward City Commissioner. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. All right, congratulations. And I want to echo again to Ryan and Austin. Thank you both so much. And I already have a list of potential boards and commissions that I want to talk to both of you about. And so with that, I would like to do the official.
Right now?
I think we should. What do y'all think? Then, he needs to get right to work tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right.
Next week.
It's time. We got a packet for you.
So, Reverend Moody, we'd love to have you come up. We can do a more ceremonial, larger reception at a later date. But because we have work to do right away, we're going to go ahead and ask our city clerk here to swear you in.
Bring your Bible.
So, do you have a Bible? If not, I have one in my office.
Who's got one on their phone?
I have one on my phone.
One of you must have a Bible in your office.
I have one on my phone.
You must too.
I usually have it in my backpack, but I take it out on Tuesdays to make it.
I do have a Bible in my office.
Are we good? We're good.
Okay.
When we do the fancy picture one, we'll have one.
Okay.
All right.
Raise
your right hand, please.
Well, but, maybe should we offer? Why don't you go down there and he can bring his wife up?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sorry. It's in. I have it in my drawer. So.
I have one on my desk too. Anyway, let's come on all the way up. Okay.
Yes, please.
And you all are just matching. Look at this.
Oh, you want for camera? Good. All right, raise your right hand. Do you, Reverend Moody, solemnly swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Michigan, the Charter of the City of Grand Rapids, and perform the duties of City Commissioner for the Third Ward to the best of your ability, so help you God?
I do.
Congratulations. And my sympathies to you for having a commissioner for us.
Congratulations, sir. Palm to the club.
I love it. Thank you. We're going to put you right to work. So before we adjourn, I just want to see if there's any other final comments from my colleagues on this side of the
I just wanted to
table.
make sure to give a shout out. Samaritas got awarded Light Tech this week, which will bring 52 new affordable units to the first ward, right on the border of the third ward. And just wanted to say again how much I appreciated how much everybody did their homework here. But I also appreciate every single comment we got either for or ambivalent toward medical marijuana was thoughtful and presented out of respect, and that just leads to great dialogue.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. Final thoughts, and then we'll close up.
It's late. Good night.
It is late. Good night. Good night. And so I'm just gonna say one more thing, even though it's been a very long day for all of us. I really want to add my thanks to Suzanne Schultz. You have been working nonstop for weeks, and honestly, I think it was every day one of us we were emailing you asking for questions or answers to questions, and you and your entire team has been absolutely fantastic in helping us get to a good place today. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I hope you get some rest soon because we'll be back at it next month. So Thank you.
Thank you,
And-
Suzanne. Thank you, Kristen.
Yes.
And everyone.
Yes. And the city attorney's office. Absolutely. Kristen, well, I said the whole team, but. All right, so with that, any other final comments? We are adjourned.